since I met you, babe. I've been up, down, every way. You started fires, I'm afraid that I can't leave, can't walk away. I knew you was trouble, babe. I know you think my heart's a game. I saw that hunger on your face, the lioness, and I'm the prey. I know I should run, I know I should hide, but I keep staying one more night. I try and resist you, I know that I should, but danger never looks so good. Looks so, but danger never looks so good. Just what they want, like a maze inside I'm lost. I try to climb, escape these walls, but every time we touch I fall. Lord, please tell me what to do. Is this a test set down from you? She comes in hot, then leaves me cold. I'm always coming back for more. I know I should run, I know I should hide, but I keep staying one more night. I try and resist you, I know that I should, but danger never looks so good. But danger never looks so good. You're on makes me stronger.
Welcome back to Busan for the latest episode of the hottest K-drama in esports. It is Hanwha Life Esports. It's T1 yet again for the spot at MSI. Welcome back to the Busan Sajik Indoor Stadium. I'm Digon alongside Wadid and Ox, and the road to MSI ends here.
It's been so exciting so far, and I feel like this is the biggest one yet because winner goes to MSI, claims that final spot, and loser unfortunately misses out on the opportunity. Both these teams have had some fantastic performances so far, all or nothing on this final day.
Yeah, obviously going to MSI means a lot. I think you keep the momentum, and I think it continues for the round 3 of LCK. So I feel like you have to go MSI to compete against the best team in the world.
Yeah, the roller coaster was rolling good, was KT, until they ran into the roadblock. That was T1. Hanwha Life Esports had some history broken as well. Their their best of 5 Game 5 win streak now ends, and both teams looking to try and get that final ticket to Vancouver to participate in MSI. Going to be a huge one. Now, the unique thing about these two teams is that they've played each other a lot, and they know each other a lot over the last year and a half. As we take a look at the records from 2024 and 2025, very Hanwha Life Esports favored, and that was before they got one of the most dynamic players in the world, Zeus. Hanwha Life Esports did.
Yeah, I mean, clearly HLE consistently had the edge recently in this matchup. Despite that, though, this covers 2024, where T1 became world champions again. So it shows that despite the fact HLE had the edge, when it came down to that clutch tournament, it was T1 who got the title. And it shows that even if HLE win most of the times when these teams match together, T1 can still bring out the big guns in those moments that matter.
Yeah, even if it's BO5, like it's HLE's favor. And I feel like you have to find something out because for Genji, I think it's Kenya who popped up with objective steals. Yesterday, it was Doran who finds the way to steal the Atakan. So I feel like this time around, T1 need to find out the way how to block their win condition from HLE.
Yeah, well, speaking of T1 and Busan and the Sajik Indoor Stadium, they've got great history here. I was there for that LNG and JDG matchup where they were able to have huge upsets. Then KT yesterday, it started good for KT, but T1 found a way to get it done. Will they be able to do it later on today is the big question. But you talk about the magic that this team has, and it always seems to come through for them here with it.
Yeah, I especially really like the idea that they have for the top lane. Yesterday, they picked Sion and Ornn for the first game. That means Sion and Ornn are gone for the rest of the game. That's how Fearless work. And I think that strategy that they had for the draft was the main part of the T1 that could have a clean win against KT yesterday.
And I think showing a lot of confidence in Doran, the newest piece to this roster, to this team, giving him a lot of priority, giving him a lot of trust, and he really rewarded them got the POM yesterday, and had a fantastic performance.
Yeah, that's where we start when we go into the keys of the match here. It is Zeus and Doran in the top lane, the unanimous POM yesterday. You know, you look up and down that roster of world champions for T1, but it was the guy in the top lane getting it done without any question, but we know how damn impactful Zeus can be.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It hurts, but HLE lost because Keen actually blocked Zeus from Game 5. He played Aatrox, and I think his Aatrox actually just outclassed Zeus and Gnar in the last game. So that's why I feel like Zeus didn't do much in the last game. So can T1 match Zeus on the top lane with Doran?
I think even if you look at the series as a whole, you often saw Keen picking tanks into Zeus, having advantages in the lane and kind of stalling him out in the laning phase when typically we've seen Zeus have big edges. Meanwhile, Doran, he was just putting on a show, stealing away the Arakan, having some fantastic moments, having a bunch of solo kills. I mean, this was such a clutch play, just sliding in, picking it up. Moments like this, solo kills on a perfect on this Renekton. This felt like a masterclass from Doran, and really we didn't see the same levels of play we've had typically from Zeus. I think this is a big confidence boost for T1 for Doran, and I think Zeus, we need a bit of a return to form going into today.
Yeah, and also in the last interview, he mentioned that I like to play Renekton into Yorick. And I think, I mean, normally I don't think you want to play Renekton into Yorick, but he said it's a good matchup for him as well. So we can see the confidence, and also you can see the stats as well that Doran is actually good, in fact.
Yeah, you can see LCK first, all up and down Zeus's laning stats, but when there are plays made by T1, Doran's there and is able to be there in kill participation.
Yeah, the one caveat I'll say, you know, I think Perfect was struggling yesterday. I think Keen is such a good top laner, and I think that's going to be the difference coming into today, is that obviously Zeus going up against Keen is a harder opponent than Doran going up against Perfect, so the match today will be different in that regard.
Now, speaking of players who haven't had the same level of impact that we've seen earlier in round 2, we look to the mid lane here in Road to MSI. Faker and Zeka, we know how great they can be, but right now kind of playing a little bit more of a backseat in terms of their first couple of matches here in the Road to MSI, and we wanted to focus on them because there's some unique picks coming out and unique utility coming out of the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, we had this moment which was pretty good from Zeka, but overall, I think he really struggled into Chovy in the laning phase in particular and was shut down quite heavily. I think there was a lot of times where really he just wasn't able to get through lane, especially when he was pressured by Canyon. When he gets into the team fight, still able to make an impact though.
But remember, they are the player that even though you underperformed yesterday, they can be just good right now because they are the world-class players. So I feel like, I mean, I have no doubt that they're going to play good this time, but it's going to be really important when it comes to the Phillies draft as well, because there are so many pocket picks that it comes out in the Road to MSI, especially including Zoe and TF, and I think those kind of picks can change the game completely.
I think the two things I think that Zeka and Fake have in common is that they're just super clutch when it comes to these big series.
Yeah, and speaking of clutch, it includes champ pools, which is seeing a ton of Twisted Fate, which is our third point of this series. Twisted Fate coming up out of nowhere here, Ox.
Yeah, I think a lot of things have really led to the rise of Twisted Fate. I think Spellbook obviously got buffed quite a bit, but also we saw a buff to Twisted Fate himself. It was just a small one, but it was a buff to the base damage on his Q. Wave clear often helping him get the ability to move, so a bit of extra damage, a bit of ability to wave clear. But we've seen a lot of these global picks, things like Talia, things like Pantheon be really popular in the meta, especially when things like Yorick are being played as well, being able to move and punish that, having a lot of value. And we saw how players like Chovy utilize this, being able to really control the game, the power of that stun card, just not allowing the enemy team really to move up and threaten at any point.
Yeah, I mean, I also tracked their level 1 to 6 laning phase, and I think the mid lane laning phase got changed a lot, especially in the early game phase. You only look to push. That's why Talia, Azir, those kind of lane push champions are high priority, and I think TF is one of the champions that you really have the lane priority in the mid lane, and I think that helps a lot for the team as well, because TF has the ability to just walk around the map.
I think also the point where he spikes like 2-3 items, he's really strong at that point, and that's often where the game feels like it's getting decided. He can often hit 3 items with the extra gold from the passive. One of the champions are at 2. We saw Zeka not really having too much success in the pick, but for Faker, it's been something he's very much had a lot of success in his career on.
Yeah, it definitely helps when he's the one coordinating so many of the plays, and now he's the one that has the go button. We've removed so many point-and-click stuns out of the game. Twisted Fate still one of those champions that have it, as we see a little bit more of the impact that happened earlier in this series against Hanwha Life Esports. Chovy pulled it on out, and you could just see the threat of a stun really prevented Hanwha Life Esports from ever winning a skirmish.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the rapid fire cannon, it's really easy to set up the fight because you just play around the gold called cooldown, and I think that's just easiest way to just set up the fight. So it's gonna be really easy whenever you have TF, item 2 spike, and also you remember that mana items got nerfed, so you don't need to go mana item on like Victor. I think many people are just stacking some masks on the mid lane, and I think TF is one of the champions. You can actually just build Leech Bane into rapid fire cannon, which got buffed as well recently. So I feel like those 2 items fits on him, and also as you mentioned, I think the 2 item spike is just so important in this game.
All right, and finally, our 4th and final point in this series has been the rise of Spellbook as well. Supports have been using it a ton, and we've seen the impact. How? Why? Ox.
Yeah, so there was a buff to it where basically the cooldown initially was reduced, but also the cooldown when... So basically every time you use Spellbook, the cooldown is reduced. And this change was pretty significant because you got to use it more often, so the cooldown becomes lower more frequently, and just the amount of time to using it is so much more than it used to be. And we've seen the rise of it oftentimes on picks like Twisted Fate, but also on supports, even on junglers, on things like Sejuani, especially when Trundle's in the game. And, you know, we did want to talk about a lot of the reasons why Spellbook is really showing up and why it's so strong.
So yeah, especially on support, I think it's really OP right now because of the summoner spell advantage. You can actually have like 2 summoner spell for the laning phase. So you pick Ignite or Exhaust to have a strong laning phase. You can actually use it, and then after that you have the heal normally that you take in this meta. I think that kind of enables that you have the stronger laning phase, and I think you can also have the TP when teams are trying to lane swap a lot. You can see in this clip as well, they already lane swap to the top side, so Doran is alone on the bot side, but Carrier just covered on the bot side with the TP, and he have heal as well to heal up Doran, and I think this kind of TP play changes a lot when it comes to the macro.
Yeah, the amount of value you get in a situation like this, shutting down a 4-man commit to the bot side, gives time then here for Owner to get in position to defend, and then KT are like, well, we still want to commit to this because we've committed so many resources, and it ends up backfiring thanks to Carrier's presence there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the evidence, you know, Rakan was on top side, so that's why we are 4-man diving on both side, but he has TP. So what can you do? He can cover both sides as well. So that's why the TP macro is so important in the pro scene. And third one is that you can have the resolve, the secondary rune as well, because so you might think that when you pick the Spellbook as a tank support, maybe your tankiness is gone.
Yeah.
But whenever you think about the secondary rune, you have the bone plating and unflinching. So, and I think that's all you need as support, right?
Yeah, I mean, even without Aftershock, like Aftershock gives you a lot of tankiness, but Unflinching recently got buffed to be quite strong in the early game.
Yeah.
Bone plating gives a lot of tankiness. That's enough, you know, to get you through the laning phase. And later on, you still get a lot of power from just the extra summoners you can have. Things like Cleanse for a champion like Rakan can be really powerful later on.
Ghost Rakan?
Ghost Rakan, super strong as well.
When did you become a shopkeeper? All right, one more point.
All right, so that's the good thing about the Spellbook, but we have to think about the thermal smite as well.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when the objective is so important. I already mentioned that Canyon stealing a lot, the objective just crashed HLE, and Doran stealing Atakan just crashed the KT, but also Carrier stole the Nashor with his smite, and I think having a 2 smites kind of reduces the process of the setup of the objective, and I think this is really important when it comes to the pro scene.
You can have so much confidence to start an objective or go for a steal. T1 are a team who are so effective at doing this, and you'll see the countdown comes in, they'll use the smites together. It's so easy to secure when you have, you know, 2 smites to be able to secure from 2,500 HP. They've done this so many times before when Spellbook was meta. On top of that, you know, there's situations where you might be so focused, like, okay, we have to deny the jungler access to the pit. You also have to deny the support access to the pit. You could kill the jungler and think, well, we're now okay to start Baron. What if the support's still alive with Smite? It just makes those setups so much more difficult if there's a support with Spellbook and Smite available.
With a series that has so many stakes and so many different storylines, we did our best to narrow it down to 4, but it's better to hear from the coaches as well, who are standing by with their insights on this final match.
2025 LCK 로드 투 MSI 최종전 경기를 앞두고 있는 양팀 감독님들 모시고 인터뷰 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
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 네, 최인규 감독님부터 인사 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 하나생명 e스포츠 감독 최인규입니다.
네, 김정균 감독님.
네, 티언 감독 꼬마 김정균입니다.
네, 최인규 감독님 지난 3라운드에서 젠지를 상대로 풀세트 끝에 아쉽게 패배를 하시면서 정말 아쉬움이 크셨을 것 같은데요. 그 기간 동안 어제 어떤 준비를 하면서 오늘 경기를 준비하셨는지 궁금합니다.
일단 어제 저희가 스크림 할 상황은 안 돼가지고 이제 상대 팀들 경기하는 거 보면서 최대한 저희 컨디션 관리하고 남은 뱀픽 준비하면서 그렇게 보냈던 것 같습니다.
네, 김정균 감독님 어제 정말 기세 좋던 KT를 상대로 3대1로 승리하면서 지금 기세가 많이 올라온 것 같은데요. 어떤 점을 중점적으로 오늘 경기 준비하셨을까요?
네, 그 이전에 이제 연습한 거 토대로 이제 어제 시간이 별로 없었기 때문에 이제 연습한 거 토대로 그냥 오늘 경기 준비했습니다.
네, 좋습니다. 감독님들이 보시기에 가장 경계되는 선수도 누구일지 궁금합니다. 먼저 최인규 감독님은 T1에서 어떤 선수가 가장 경계되시나요?
이전에 붙을 때도 항상 오너 선수가 경계됐었는데 오늘도 마찬가지로 오너 선수가 제일 경계되는 것 같습니다.
네, 김정균 감독님은 어떠실까요?
네, 오늘 같은 경우에는 이제 하나생명 팀이 모든 라인이 좀 잘한다고 생각하고 있기 때문에 오늘은 모든 라인을 좀 경계하고 있습니다.
네, 알겠습니다. 오늘 경기에서 승리를 하시면 이제 캐나다 밴쿠버로 향할 수 있게 됩니다. 최종전에 임하는 각오 한 말씀씩 들어보겠습니다. 최인규 감독님.
네, MSI를 갈 수 있는 기회가 오늘이 마지막인 만큼 최대한 후회 없는 경기 펼치고 그렇게 최선을 다해서 오늘 경기에 임하도록 하겠습니다.
네, 김정균 감독님.
네, 오늘 승리해서 꼭 MSI 진출해서 팬분들 웃게 해드리고 싶습니다.
네, 하나생명의 MSI 첫 번째 진출 그리고 T1의 8번째 도전이 걸린 최종전입니다. 끝까지 최선을 다해주시기 바라면서 감독님 두 분과의 인터뷰 여기서 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Both teams obviously want to do it for their own ambitions and goals, but I gotta tell you, being here in Busan and being from North America and coming back here when I was here in Worlds 2023, the impact on the fandom cannot be understated. There were so many T1 fans here, and I was thinking before I got here, all right, we're in Korea, Hanwha Life Esports fans would show up. No. It is a T1 house here, and it means so much for both of these organizations, for their fans, or to grow their fan base, to win here and go to Vancouver and be that global icon that every organization wants to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such a huge opportunity. And I think especially we've seen so many of these players often get these chances to represent on these big stages, especially with how strong LCK has been at internationals. But I think MSI is a special one because Worlds, LCK has been dominant recently, but I think MSI, I know we are the reigning champions, but there's been a lot of times it's escaped us in the past, and I know we want to start to put a bit of a streak together.
We all know how important it is to get the experience with the best teams in the world. And I think it's always good to share your ideas and the macros with the other region teams. So I feel like just going into the MSI is like another level to develop your skills in terms of like team skills.
Let's take a look at the MSI history between all 10 of these players, because not all of them have gone. Surprise! Zeka and Viper, world champs, never been to MSI before, which is kind of crazy.
I think the Viper one just feels so weird to me. Like Zeka, you know, I can understand it, but Viper feels like such a standout. I think the thing that really, to me, is that, you know, this Owner, Faker, Guma, Carrier lineup, obviously, when they were with Zeus as well, they had great success, managed to win Worlds twice, but never got that MSI title. So those players always looking to get that one under the belt. And, you know, Zeus and those four other players, all of them, one of them, either Zeus or the other four, they all won't be able to go. So it's either going to be Zeus or the other four. We'll see who'll be able to go. See whether it will be Zeus denying the rest or the rest denying him.
Oh, man.
Huge opportunity. And I just think there's a lot of stake, we saw Guma with his statement yesterday saying he wants to deny Zeus.
I mean, we also saw Doran brush off his shoulder. It is going to be real tough for one of these teams that isn't going to make it. And so it's prediction time, and I can't deny the magic of T1 here in the Sajik Indoor Stadium. I know the eyes say it's Hanwha Life Esports. I know that they've been the better team all season long. Give me T1, 3-2.
But you know what, Tigon? If the magic trick gets rebuilt, and I think the magician needs to prepare something else. But I think you don't have
What? You got 3-0?
Doesn't have enough time to prepare.
3-0? Who is this guy? What is this?
I think it's gonna be 3-0. I think. Don't forget what they had for day one. By the way, they were leading 2-0 against Genji, the world best team. So I feel like HLE is just strongly favored in this matchup.
Okay. I mean, I think HLE are favored. I don't think HLE are a 3-0 team. You know, I feel like
That's fair.
I feel like HLE always gets a little messy, you know? Like
That's fair.
even they went 2-0 up against Genji, and then obviously they did falter, but even like we saw them in the LCK Cup, it always went to 5, and I don't know if they'll go to 5 this time, but I don't think it'll be a clean 3-0.
I like it. The E for Hanwha Life Esports is actually Hanwha Life Entertainment. 3-1 there for Ox.
True.
Y'all, the stakes have been set. This has been boiling since the offseason through LCK Cup, rounds 1 and 2, and now we have it. Only one team will be going on over to MSI. Will it be DOFGK or the reigning champs of the LCK? Let's find out right now. It is the road to MSI Final Series.
T1이 아직까지 의식을 못하는 것 같은데요.
버스트가 좀 빠른데
먹을 것 같아요. 이건 먹고.
버스트.
예, 노스막이긴 한데 판테 떨어진다.
수요 정도만.
이거 들어가요? 지렸네.
KT가 기세가 좋긴 했지만 충분히 이길 수 있는 팀이라고 생각했고.
This prehistoric monster comes looking for the reengage, but he doesn't find the ulti, and it's a double for Guma. Doran now is a freight train in T1.
이제 하나전을 잘 준비해 볼 생각입니다.
사실 누가 올라와도 저희가 분명히 이길 수 있다고 생각하고 있기 때문에 사실 자신감은 많이 있습니다.
각계 전투가 되는 그림에서는 어쨌든 하나생명 좀 세 보이는데요? 한타 진짜 잘하네. 전차 무섭습니다.
정규 시즌과 아예 다른 게임이라고 생각을 하고 큰 경기의 T1은 다릅니다. 충분히 다른 결과 만들어낼 수 있다고 생각합니다.
이겨서 MSI를 가는 것도 굉장히 기대가 되지만 당장 이제 한판을 이기고 싶다는 그런 마음이 좀 큰 것 같아요.
저희가 매년 MSI 출전했었는데 이번에도 하나생명 이기고 MSI 꼭 출전하도록 하겠습니다.
길게 말할 건 없는데 반드시 이기겠습니다.
한 장 남은 MSI 티켓
한화생명이
T1이 가져가겠습니다.
하나생명 T1 파이팅! 와! 하나생명 파이팅! 하나생명 파이팅! T1 파이팅!
구마우씨.
케냐 K 파이팅!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the last match in this road to MSI. Will it be a golden one, or will it once again be T1? We'll just have to see. I'm Atlas. I'm joined, or flanked, should I say, by Chronicler and Wolf. And gentlemen, there is one last chance for that spot at MSI.
It's a big one. This is the kind of match where I think we do have a pretty strong favorite, but it's T1 in a massive arena where the fans favor them. And this roster, Sans Doran, has been playing together so long. Sometimes it's not about the stats. Sometimes it's not about the momentum. Sometimes it's just about that T1 magic that Wadid has been talking about on the desk. The synergy this team has together, the ability to make snap calls at the last minute, might be able to get them over the line. That said, most people predicting Hanwha today.
And I think that's a given how Hanwha in their recent showings have gotten the better of T1, both in best of threes and in best of fives. That series against Genji was a hard-fought battle, and throughout the entirety of the split, it has felt like those two teams we're ahead of the curve, right? And I think that best of 5 kind of confirmed it, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see mostly Hanwha Preds, at least on the global side. As there we go.
It's one of those things where you have to choose between honesty and making the fans happy, and unfortunately, honesty should probably reign supreme. Gogo and Dagon, of course, ignoring that completely, but that is totally fine. HLE are looking absolutely monstrous. We have to go back to the regular season, the fact that it looked like we had a very clear top 2. This HLE, I think, was built to destroy international competition. They've already been very outspoken. They don't care about regular season matches. This team wants to show the world that they were built to win.
And I love that there's so much actual valuable co-op. That's a very low win percentage, as we always talk about. It's not 70 or 80%, we sleep. But on one hand, you know, we have Zeka, Mr. The lights weren't bright enough on Friday, okay? That was not an elimination match. It's fine, he has a second chance. And then on the flip side, you have Faker. I wake up at World's Finals. And then he did!
He absolutely did. And this is the Sajik Indoor Stadium, right? We have to remember, Magic has been created here. That did start yesterday. I just don't know whether Magic spells are going to be enough to take down this this orange tank. It's a big call, but it is now time to welcome the players to this stadium. Is it going to be enough? Because T1 looked pretty good against KT yesterday, but now it is a very different opponent.
And this is the story that I think most will focus on today is the top lane. Our first players here to walk out, Doran and Zeus. A man who was replaced versus the man who replaced him. And this is the story we followed all year long. But with Doran looking in peak form yesterday, the matchup feeling a lot closer than it otherwise would have pre-Road to MSI, as Zeus was by far our most dominant top laner here in 2025. But Doran peaking at the right time here in best of 5s could make this one a little bit more interesting.
And Zeus also had a relatively muted series, but Zeus was playing against Keen. Doran was playing against Perfect. And I do think Perfect, his redemption arc kind of cut short ever since that game 2 yesterday. But it does mean, particularly in light of some of the previous series, to which we are discussing to this day, whether or not Doran was robbed. Can't wait to see how it turns out today.
And he was chronicled by you, if you remember. Let's get towards the jungle, though, as Owner and Peanut, arguably two of the most important players for both of these teams. Owner especially having an absolute day out yesterday as well, but we're kind of used to saying it about this man.
Yeah, I mean, he's right now the jungler everyone has been talking about just because his role in the team has been so incredibly important. When the rest of T1 is stumbling, he does not falter. He has been so consistent. Peanut's early pathing, his ability to apply pressure at the exact right moments, at the exact right lanes has been so strong throughout his career, but it feels like he just gets better every year. Such a cerebral player. But Owner on the meta picks right now, I feel, is king of the jungle.
And particularly in a role that is so often changing, so many different metas, so many different playstyles. Owner has just been, for like almost 2 years at this point, one of the mainstays when it comes to our top tier junglers.
And speaking of mainstays, we have the one of this video game. It is Faker, and he's taking on his rival that started in 2022. There are players that have not been able to do it in the clutch moments. That ain't Zeka. Zeka has been able to do it in the clutch moments, and we'll see whether he can do it again today.
I think Faker and Zeka both having somewhat quiet performances in their opening matches here coming into the Road to MSI. Our final match is today. Obviously, form can change day to day, but I think we're going to see both of these players step it up and be closer to their ceilings than what we've seen from them so far.
I would agree. Of course, fighting for this ticket here to Vancouver. See who is going to be able to pick it up between these two incredible players. Viper and Gumayusi. This is a difficult question, I think, because Gumayushi's form has changed from what we saw in the regular season to what we saw yesterday.
Really stepped it up, and it's also telling that much like Viper has done ever since he joined the LCK, Guma has been willing to dip his toes into different styles. That Ziggs yesterday, was it enough to 100% satisfy Ox? No, but it still was, I think, such a big improvement, both in how he played it and how the team played around it.
The willingness to draft it, I think, is a big change we've seen. Because remember when LCK Summer lower bracket finals happened and Hanwha defeated T1 there, Guma's champion pool was an issue then. It was an issue coming into LCK Cup. And we had the Smash debacle, right? We had the swaps, but Guma has really improved. I think the willingness to pick a wider champion pool and find his niche in this meta makes you feel pretty good about T1's chances in the best of 5. Before Road to MSI, we were a little worried. Now you feel much better.
And to augment these bot laners, it is their supports, Keria and Delight. Keria especially yesterday in those pro views being so extraordinarily vocal, looking like he was the architect of so many of these team fights that in the last 3 games went all T1's way.
And the best carry support versus what I'd consider the best engage support in the LCK. I do think Delight hasn't quite shown those incredible montage moments that we're so used to seeing from him. And Keria, I think he started slow yesterday. The Elise game was a little off, but after that, I do think he came back in with a vengeance.
Keria's shot calling was the big story of yesterday. We saw it in so many of the comms, so many of the shared footage that was out there. He's being a very vocal. You know, he and Faker obviously share that role, but I think his leadership has actually really improved a lot and is a big part of why T1 were able to dismantle KT Rolster yesterday.
Here are your teams, ladies and gentlemen. It is the road to MSI. One of these teams is going to be stopped here today. We just have to find out whether the miracles in Busan for T1 will continue or whether it is a call from reality as Hanwha Life Esports look to continue their golden road.
As it's Peanut and Faker with a little smile as well, of course. Longtime rivals, ex-teammates, as the coaching staff takes the stage, and I can't wait to see. To be fair, I feel like the first 2 games of Fearless Draft, it's pretty on rails. We know what to expect, but it's starting game 3 that it gets really fun.
I love the stories about Mata as well, because yesterday he was facing off against Score, and of course there was a little pat in the back moment, their ex-teammates. Well, now it's Dandy and Mata, so there's ex-teammates for Mata everywhere. This guy has played for every team in every era of this game. It is absolutely ridiculous, and we are getting very, very close to the Game 1 draft. This is going to set the stage, of course. Side selection is there. Hanwha Life Esports did have the upper side of this bracket in theory, but they did come from the round 3 match.
I think even though early in Fearless, Blue Side has had such an insane advantage. It's given you, with all the OP picks, so many extra edges. Teams have really gotten better about drafting on Red Side, and it really has been, especially in Road to MSI specifically, the better team wins. And, you know, KT Rolster proved that. Sometimes it's not even necessarily about draft, it's who is the better team on the day, but also teams like T1 showed us with that Ziggs draft yesterday into the Xayah, with the Camille setup that we've seen 1,000 times, that sometimes draft can just be enough to get you across the line. So this first one, I don't know if we're going to see a massive draft gap either way, but some of those big prio picks like the Azir, the Victor, we'll see if they get dropped out early.
We'll just have to find out, as now it is time. I think eyes are going to be on things like Yone, things like the Taliyah, especially. Vi will be permabanned throughout the entire series. That is not something really to worry about. But I think there will be some 80 carries that slip through. Who is going to get the Kalista in game number 1? There are a lot of these questions that are going to crop up, as there are only so many things you can take away.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be allowed to play Kalista in this series. Every time we have seen it, it just felt like it was a pretty big problem. As you're highlighting, though, there are so many OP picks, so many champs that make us go, why does X player get Y champion? One of the things that I do think is important is we see that Yone ban. We saw in the series against Gen G that with Chovy specifically, he was able to find lane encounters to some champions that were considered kind of impossible to deal with. Neither of these players really play towards lane all that much, right? Both Zeka and Faker, I think, are more known for what they do out of lane. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just go for champions that have maximum impact. Taliyah, the Galio are ones that I'd be looking towards.
T1 looking to potentially trade, like they haven't banned Vi yet. Are they looking to trade Vi for Kalista Renata? That would be such a bold choice. Renata's strong into dive compositions, but when you don't see Vi in that first spot on Red Side, you're starting to wonder, like, what kind of game is T1 playing here? Because that's the obvious one, that's the permanent one. We have never not seen that one. So some decision making here in this final moment about it, and they are going to leave both. Oh, the Kalista, of course, and that Vi. So I mean, I kind of what you value.
I had a feeling that they were going to gamble with the Peanut Vi situation.
It's gonna be Vi.
They have to lock it in.
Because the Kalista, Renata, as good as it is, Nico is still open. Has actually made it through the draft. If you answer with Varus Nico, that's playable. I don't think you can give Owner Vi, and we trust Peanut on Vi blindly as well. So, but T1 knew this was going to happen as well. Yeah. And the only thing that makes me kind of wonder is, I feel like the Poppy in particular we've seen be used with great efficiency. Another answer is Skarner, but Skarner has been a bit hot and cold, and Ona's performance last time was not necessarily the best.
Yeah. I think you pretty much have to go for the Kalista setup here, though. There's not really any other way to approach this, although T1 disagree. And we'll at least look at the Gwen.
Yeah, you could theoretically pick the Kalista, see whether they're going to pick away the Nico, and then opt in for something else other than the Renata.
You could also lock the Nico here and deny their Kalista counter, and then get the Kalista Nico as a response.
I think with those two bans, though, you're going to be gunning for the Kalista. Like, both Poppy and Talia are so good into it. It'll be really a big gamble if they don't, but you're right, they are going to go for the Nico instead.
I think this is kind of the checkmate moment, because you deny they don't want to play Kalista anymore now into this Nico, and then you still get to have it.
This is the problem for me, though, is you can't deny Ahri Vi from Peanut and Zeka. And we haven't seen this combination like all year because it's illegal. You're just not allowed to see it because Vi has been banned in every single game. This has, like, point and click, you're dead is basically how it works. And Zeka is no stranger to the Ahri play as well. Let's see whether Homolife Esports are actually happy to pick away the Kalista. That picture is hilarious. And instead, it's going to be a Jax consideration for Zeus. Fire with fire here on this top side into the Gwen.
Yeah, really powerful, though, into the Gwen if you play through that top side and get the side laning power there. But this is the more obvious response to the Gwen. With the Rumble ban, obviously, this has really been the go-to for so many players that know how to space it well, know how to play this matchup incredibly well. And Zeus is the Jace in the top lane who will dominate that lane, and you can absolutely play through it here in this draft. This is where you gotta lock Kalista, though, right? Surely.
Well, so with the Vi on the opposite end, I can see why you wouldn't. One of the big weaknesses that Kalista does have is getting locked down, and that isn't an option here. Might still go for it just because of the raw power of the pick. And with the Nico as well, we saw KT use this combo with such great power. When it comes to the Jace, I like it with the Vi as well as the Ahri because it both allows you to do a little bit of preliminary work, soften up some of the targets, but you can also go in when the Vi, when the Ahri actually go in and pull the trigger on that dive.
Now, I think the obvious ban is going to be that Victor. That was the consideration over the Kalista here for T1, as it is a pick that Faker's incredibly comfortable on, has been so high prio for T1, and shores up a lot of their damage. Instead, they take away the Nocturne first, as the Xayah ban is also pretty obvious here in this draft.
Yeah, the Xayah ban is actually kind of interesting. I was expecting a Jhin ban to come through just because Viper being able to sit back, play that utility role, and to allow for even more of these single target picks with the Deadly Flourish will really synergize with this composition that they've already put together. I know I'm advocating for Jhin. It makes me feel weird too.
It's okay, Atlas. You know, sometimes we just get caught off guard by our own tendencies.
I was thinking about this. I was actually considering something like this because they need a lot of physical damage.
The Fury feels like it's a better fit, though.
Not only do they need physical damage, but actually, yeah, I was about to say, they need engage, because they don't really have great engage right now. Obviously, you can throw in the Nico, but it is very all-in. Wukong, to me, feels both the niche of being able to provide a reliable source of AD damage, as well as the CC, or the AoE CC to combine with the Nico, while also having a consistent angle to get on top, because both the Xin Zhao, with the way Owner plays it, as well as the Nocturne, would have provided the surefire way to start fights.
I think that you're looking for any sort of strong matchup here. The Jhin would have been a good option. Obviously, you have such strong, powerful engage to allow the Jhin to follow up. Misfortune is
MF
idea. Yeah, the Rel comes through. Going to be a tougher lane matchup. And now this Nico, I don't think we really thought it was going to be a flex, but it definitely won't be. And Faker will be the final lock-in here. Could go for damage because you have a lot of peel with this Wukong, or instead, in this case, you could just go for the ultimate ability to brawl hard with this triple melee composition that has the Nico engage, and you basically can go on to anyone. The Ahri is not going to be safe. The Jace is certainly not going to be safe. And this immobile AD carry in the Misfortune has a pretty weak front line, frankly. There's a lot of ways to access and get on top of Viper here for T1. I like T1's draft here in this first game.
both these two drafts, I think, fall apart once you start falling behind. There is obviously, when it comes to these 10 champions, I think the Gwen in particular kind of stands alone, and once you get to the 3 out of and beyond point in a side lane. But playing Sylas from behind feels miserable. Playing Vi Ahri from behind feels miserable as well. And if the MF was an essential source of damage, I think I'd be a little bit worried about Hanwha, but this is a 4-carry composition, right? Literally every single member of the team can provide a little bit. It's the same for T1, but it does mean that with how short range basically every character on the map is, once you start falling behind, you can't actually go for the short trades and the full commitment to these skirmishes. It's going to be so hard to take control.
There's no way out if you commit in. It will just be pop blossomed, cycloned, and then the Sylas is going to be flying through the team fight. So when you commit for that pick, when you see the ult charm attempts here from Zeka, you better hit those. You better blow that target up. Vi gives you insane setup for it. It's going to make it a little bit easier, but they have to be super crisp with how they play this. I think absolutely Hanwha can win with this, but the execution has to be so clean.
It does, but once they get ahead, I mean, single target pick, you make that map dark, it becomes a scary, scary place. Let's jump into the rift for game 1.
하나, 둘, 셋. T1, 하나, 둘, 셋.
Oh my goodness, we were missing this yesterday, but this stadium just erupted with the T1 cheers. Everyone making sure that they're here to see whether T1 can stamp that ticket to MSI. Of course, quite a few HLE fans here in the audience today, but the most popular team in this entire esport, certainly still very loud.
And in the entirety of esports as well. Of course, they're a multi-game org themselves. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Faker plays on this Sylas, because that is one of the big cruxes of this draft, and individually he has been struggling in some of these melee into ranged matchups where he is the melee, and we'll see if he can deal with Zeka in this early laning phase and how he looks in the first few skirmishes, as it is going to obviously be a high impact champion in this draft. It's not the Giga Sylas hijack angle draft here for Hanwha Life, but there's still some good ultimates, especially the Ahri ultimate, to get you to close the gap.
Yeah, they both actually have Vi, as it turns out.
Yes, also that.
Zeus going for the phase rush here, which I think, particularly into Gwen, who's looking for these short aggressive trades, actually works out quite nicely. We have seen Gwen's early game be somewhat mitigated. I think Grass still goes a long way, as we can see here. But this top lane matchup, I think once the couple of levels comes in and Zeus gets access to more skills, he should be able to maintain a decent level of prio. Both junglers currently in the top half of the map, pathing towards bot. Zeus has the level 2 gap, but Doran does find the sidestep still, though. Trade a bit rough.
Does have to dash away. Doesn't have
does
to
he
use
miss?
a flash or anything like that.
Yeah, he misses a good amount of experience there.
Yeah, that's huge. We did see Zeus use his pot. Doran, however, did not commit to his, so still has that potion in the inventory. Azeka is doing what you're supposed to do in the first few levels of this match, which is proc Electrocute on Mass. And so far, that is working well for him. Down here, the Misfortune pick hasn't really gotten its value just yet. It's tough playing into Kalista Nico with any champion.
Yeah, I think probably just waiting for that lane swap opportunity as early as possible. Yes. T1 was doing that all day yesterday as well, but this wave, a big one, going to be crashing towards Doran's turret. Might even be plate territory. It's a huge wave.
It's also a big deal that T1's bot lane actually maintains this pressure, because both mid and top are not going to have prio, right? So that means there's a lot of freedom for Peanut, and he has a lot stronger ability to impact the map, especially pre-level 6. Post-6 it becomes a little different, but even post-6, I feel like Vi, there's a reason why this champion is just permaban, right? It makes it so easy to set up any play, even on traditionally slippery targets like the Gwen.
Oh dear. As to the skies, Flash has to be used this time around as Doran was out of dashes.
I mean, this top lane, watching it though, has just been absolute cinema between Doran blocking there with his Shroud, the Q from Zeus, but it's still obviously going to be a Jace favorite matchup with both players playing perfectly, and Doran will be shoved out of the lane first here. Does have his teleport, of course, so it won't be too consequential, but it's a pretty significant advantage that Zeus has already picked up. Stops the back as well.
Oh, Peanut going to be grabbing this scuttle. It is a trade of the two of those between these junglers. Oh my goodness, Chomp connects and Faker! He has to flash! Otherwise that true damage would have killed him.
You saw Zeka for a split second there. He was like, oh, walked close, didn't actually commit the flash. I think the right call. I don't think they knew for certain where Owner was. Could be backing or could be right next to you in the lane, and getting the flash is just a big win, because again, there's a Vi on the enemy team.
Yeah, Guma is going to swap up here to the top side now as Doran heads down to the bottom side with his teleport. Tough matchup to play out here. And it's going to be a free back for Zeus in the meanwhile with the push coming through.
Yeah, first straight going to be a Chemtech as well, so Orcs off the hook immediately in this game, which means that he's probably able to breathe a sigh of relief, get back to his job instead of worrying about what dragon it's going to be. That's fantastic stuff. As Faker back in the lane once again, has augmented his build with a ring and a book. Not necessarily going to be feeling too much better about this matchup just yet.
Really interesting to see who's going to be the one to pull the trigger on Dragon, because right now T1 has vision advantage from their Kalista push in the bottom side, but obviously now Doran is going to lose control of this lane, and Faker does not have mid control.
Yeah, so Carrier looking for a bit of an angle here, starts it with a Pop Blossom instead of those Tangle Barbs.
It seems like Peanut is going to head over there. Is on vision though, as Doran.
Oh dear, Doran goes into the circle. Shock Blast goes wide though, as now Doran looking to try and put on the pressure. Let's see, the snips are coming in, and there's a pause!
Oh no,
Zeus, he couldn't face it! He couldn't face being solo killed by Doran, or something has gone catastrophically.
Well, Zeus still has flash, right? So
yeah. No, I felt the melodrama.
No, I do. You know, I appreciate your
needed
flat
to
foot.
Really, because we might be settling in for quite a pause.
I mean,
you know?
Well, I hope not.
We have seen so many times in this matchup between these two players, like even when Doran was on Genji, we talked about the MVP thing earlier, that Zeus has been neutralized by Doran. Like it seems like in best of fives in our roadshows here at LCK, it doesn't necessarily happen internationally, it doesn't necessarily happen in regular season, but there's these moments where you're like, is Doran gonna do it? Like is he gonna get the outplay?
Yeah.
And in these big best of fives, this feels like a finals, right? It's obviously not, it's our second seed qualifier match here, but Doran again, man, he's playing aggressively. He's getting the better end of Zeus once more. Now, like you said,
I want this pause to actually be like owner's keyboard feels like it's lagging. That's what I want the pause to be. Peripheral issue, and it's like Faker who's just like, oh no, something's going a little bit wrong here. In the meantime, there is this incredibly intense, it's a Gumayushi audio issue, guys.
Yeah,
it's actually what I was saying. It's so good. It's perfect.
Yeah, so hopefully audio issues general, like peripheral and audio issues are,
these things happen,
are the ones that we're looking for. It will be interesting to see if they actually do get the flash. Jace is just as susceptible, or I'd argue more susceptible to ganks from the Wukong the moment that the flash is down.
Look at Faker's face as well. He's grinning a little bit. He's like, Doran, it's going to be okay, buddy.
I mean, what will likely happen is he will just instantly flash out of the pause. I mean, it looks like Doran has like the wind up, like he's looking for the auto, but
I don't know if it's enough. We'll see. I don't know if his E cooldown is already short enough that because if he doesn't have another E, he obviously can't flash.
Yeah, then
and he's out of snips, so we'll see. Zeus either flashes or walks it up, but then it's still a win for Doran, right? I don't know what the lane state was, but I think it was pretty decently far up. Maybe he can set up a freeze, because he was behind because of the early plates. Could be an opportunity to kind of equalize that lane.
Yeah, I can imagine that, Doran is probably feeling a little bit triggered after that one, but Ona and Faker, both of them, with grins on their faces during this pause. So we're hoping that Gumayushi's audio issue is going to be sorted out very, very quickly.
And like you said earlier, Max, like it's probably just, it's going to be a flash. You know, maybe if there's a misplay out of this pause, I suppose it could be a kill, but I don't think so. But it's so interesting that if you asked anybody 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, like would Doran get the better of Zeus, especially in a matchup like this where he's playing the Gwen into Zeus's Jace? Would he be able to make a play like this? I feel like 9 out of 10 people say no.
Oh, there's the flash.
There it is, yeah.
So the one auto and then the flash does actually come in as the chains are going to connect here from Faker, finding a really good trade with the Kingslayer, feeling like he can just shake off the earlier harassment that Zek was able to put down.
And we'll lose some farm for it though.
And unless there is an actual punishment, that flash from Faker being forced doesn't really matter that much, right? So we'll see. Once level 6 is available, there's definitely an opportunity, as we do know Faker loves to go in for these skill checks. I think Zeka also maybe expecting that, ready for it, but it's going to be wave clearing for now.
Not too worried about it. Zeka is considering a back, but Ona comes over to clear out this control ward. Zeka is not going to risk it. Peanut on the Dragon already.
Yeah, the Dragon I mentioned earlier, especially with that play from Doran there on the flash taken away from Zeus, just feels like a pretty easy setup. Now, I say that Owner is looking for a potential steal here.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, they thought he backed because he was on the ward.
Well, he can see Peanut, but he couldn't see the health bar. As
I
think
think
there
yeah,
is Peanut,
have a
gets
suspicion.
wind of it. And Ona comes in. Let's see who's going to be able to take this. And it's Ona just stealing it away.
Even with the shock blast from Zeus.
Yeah. Not able to coordinate it, unfortunately.
That's massive.
Burst the burst that's available to the Wukong is, I think, just more than the Vi. I think Peanut there was trying to also time it with his third hit of his passive, right? The W, that is a good amount of percentage health damage, but doesn't quite get it. And Owner able to get them an early dragon.
Nicely played. It is one Chemtech, not end of the world or anything like that, but if this is a sign of things to come, that could be dangerous, because we saw in the last series, once again, it was Canyon finding all of those smites against Peanut. Peanut hasn't necessarily had the smite hands in series, in fact, throughout this entire year, to be honest.
It's not one of his most famous traits as a top jungler player.
Not necessarily, no.
Those aren't the reasons you usually talk about Peanut being a great player.
Yeah. And to be, okay, never mind.
Looks like it's probably Guma still, based on his facial expression there.
Yeah, he was a little bit like, yes, something is still potentially wrong.
Well, at least there's no all-in happening right now. Looking at the map, everyone's kind of chilling.
Light and Viper are all in on killing that minion wave.
He took the time when he was resetting to be like, yeah, it's still broken.
Yep.
Again, this is our assumption. We will, of course, let you guys know for sure once we do have official confirmation.
Yeah, Doran is obviously not going to be quite as flustered this time around. But yeah, it's the same issue. Confirmation there that, once again, Gumushi's audio is struggling just a little bit. So we'll just make sure that we get that sorted out and get back onto the Rift as soon as possible. As, yeah, Guma looking like he is feeling like perhaps this is not ideal, and we just want to play some League of Legends.
And both compositions, once they hit 6, have such insane power spikes. We already saw it in mid, right? Both the real Ariel and the fake Ariel already being at the ready, but particularly for the Wukong and the impact that he can have in the fights.
The
Vi as well, yeah. A lot of the fights will, I think, come down to, for Humble Life, can we find a single target and eliminate it in time? Because I think the AoE power of the T1 composition, particularly if they can get a flank off with either their Wukong or their Nico, can be tough to deal with if you're fighting in enclosed spaces.
And obviously, with the explosive engage opportunities that both of these teams have, having Prio and having the vision and the ability to select the correct target and set up that fight, knowing where the enemy peel is really important. So continuing to have lane Prio, I think, was really important for Hanwha Life's comp, because they have the Jason to the Gwen, right? They have the Ahri range matchup, obviously, into the Sylas, and they've been able to hold that Prio thus far, but we haven't really had a clash on objectives outside of that steal, but not really a true fight. Perhaps when these grubs do open up in a moment's time here, we'll see that fight break out and start to see those ultimates really make that impact. Because like we've talked about so much with the drafts, you win that first fight, if you win it with like a 3 kills clean, that might just be like what propels you to win the game, because it snowballs so hard. If you get a single pick, you get the objective, there's still some play there, there's still some wiggle room, but certainly this next big fight is going to be a big one.
Oh no, there was a little bit of trouble in paradise there, as we just saw. We'll see who is going to be the happier member of that particular relationship towards the end.
I do really like the very different styles where you have like the happy tank with it's like an Advanced Wars style, the orange is coming out, and then the faker one is like, no, we are not here to mess around. Oh, we are playing a very serious video game.
Well, my favorite one's still the Zeka's head is small because his shoulders are so big. It took me a while to figure out what it meant, and then I realized what it meant.
Yeah. This man carries. As I think we know this one.
Oh, Viper too, though.
Oh man.
Okay,
so Viper can carry as well. That's what we're saying. As Jojo back on the broadcast for a few moments, and what are we just? The meta really, it's really getting out of control.
Never stops developing.
It really
haven't seen this one before. Before you know it, we're gonna get like the actual flippy books where you just have animation.
Yeah. Or someone's gonna come and they've got like the paper that's extraordinarily long. And one of those old printers, and they just pull it up as if you're like reading the comics.
Oh, like the decree.
Yeah. Ready for that one. That's going to take a lot of paper, a lot of coordination.
Well, we have the time, clearly.
Well, I mean, that's true. And also, I think you need to reach a next level if you want to make sure that you get it on camera as well, because there are thousands of people here in this stadium today, as we can see here.
Yeah, just a reminder that in Korea, in the LCK, and in Korean esports, obviously massive, a match like this to be a qualifier for an international tournament means so much. The LCK has a history of being dominant at international tournaments. As Ox mentioned earlier, though, not necessarily at MSI recently, despite being the defending champions. That was where the LCK struggled more than they did at the World Championship. But it's so important to all these fans of all these teams, including KT, who was here yesterday, attempting to make their run to MSI, that their team gets a shot to prove that, again, they're one of top 2 teams in Korea. You know, they're the second best, and today that Korea has to offer. And perhaps they could be the best. They have an opportunity at MSI to prove that as well.
I really like all of these overarching thoughts, Wolf, but I just saw a Pikachu with opposable thumbs. And that's not real. That's just ruined my immersion entirely. Pikachu cannot make the Zeus sign. He just actually cannot do it.
Well, I also he doesn't have it as his tail. That is already a lightning bolt.
It's already there.
I didn't. It's okay. It's okay, Atlas.
Sorry, that really bothered me. Oh, she did a high five with the player as they were walking out today.
Never wash her
now
hand
she's
again.
never going to wash her hands.
That's a classic.
And also on her hand, it said luck button.
Oh, they're back again. Samira and Jace. Very, very cool.
I want to say Set and Poppy.
Yeah, Poppy for sure,
there
right?
we go. Oh, everyone's a Zeus fan?
I mean, Zeus, he's a top Poppy enjoyer.
He actually, well, I mean, we've got Owner and Peanut in the game. I don't think that's illegal. The Poppy cannot be a reference to Zeus today.
Well, she said it was, Atlas. I don't know.
It's actually a very good point. It's not up.
I think she gets to decide.
Yeah,
Maybe she was also protesting the Pikachu thing. You know, it's just going back to that.
Might have been like, everyone can do this, see? Poppy would have been a better option. At least she's got opposable thumbs.
I think maybe if you get 2 Pikachus, you can do like the, you know, kind of the same, but instead with the tails. Like the Zeus sign. That will work.
That would be a way to do it. That being said, the tail is already in that shape.
Well, yeah, but then you could double up. Double the lightning.
On a more serious, series-related note, obviously, to remind everyone, we have an audio issue for Gumushi that was thought to be resolved, but was not. And, of course, during this time, okay, we are resuming soon, we've just been told, but during this time,
I like it when Wolf gets serious, that's when you know the pause is over.
Yeah. Well,
That's
the players
how it works.
can't communicate with each other about the game, so this is quite tense, right? Just to let people know at home who might not have known that rule, you're not allowed to discuss the game during these pauses. So everything that is happening, the next objective fight that's coming up, the lane states, all of that, you're trying to remember it and keep it in your mind's eye as you calmly wait for the pause to be resolved. So it is a very tense moment for both sides. A very big moment is upcoming in that first big fight. We talked about the level 6s coming online, and we'll be having it shortly as it looks like we're finally back.
Yeah, here we go. Onto the Rift for game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. It has continued for quite some time, but, you know, not a whole lot of notable things have happened. Some flashes being blown by both of these top laners, and it was looking like Zeus was getting the control. That last play showed us that Doran's level up that he showed us yesterday is continuing even in this matchup. His Gwen has been great all year, to be fair, but still showing that form was not temporary.
Looking at the sums available right now, neither top laner holding on to their TP, and it is very likely with 6 for Owner, we are going to see a fight around the grubs. Neither support is even close, as there we go!
Yeah, we are flashing in and flashing out. Here's Owner, so that's a flash for flash trade. I think Delight going to be okay with it. Doesn't have Hex Flash.
Well, the Wukong, though...
And he does have Spellbook.
Yeah, the Wukong, of course, does have... Okay, hold up.
Yeah, Doran going aggressive once again.
I was going to say the Warrior Trickster. Warrior Trickster can help close the gap, and they will be looking for that as they have a great angle here with Keria on the flank. He doesn't have 6, but just a root would be enough to deny Delight entry. And it looks like Hanwha Esports have just lost interest in the whole thing, and they're just going to give it over to T1.
Yep, not going to be Grubs. Peanut instead just going to head towards this bottom side jungle. Look to steal that one away.
And maybe also worried because Doran does have his TP available now, right? His was a lot earlier on the cooldown. If that play had worked and they had been able to pick off Owner, I think they would have definitely gone for it, but not going to be the case as Doran is going to find each other, but obviously Zeus really wants to get a base in, only sitting on a tier as well, whereas Doran, we could see with those plated steel caps, really getting the better end of those trades.
A lot of value out of that one. Gold incredibly even, as we can see, is now Zeka moving forward. Peanut's here, though. He's even got cease and desist. It's going to be used by Faker as he hijacks it away. And there it is, returned in kind. And Zeka will finally claim the first blood.
It's a frustrating matchup to play as the Silas. You know, you get charmed like that, you eat that electrocute, and you feel like you have to go back in. You have to make it an even trade, or eventually just get worn down in the lane. But when you don't know where Peanut is and you make that call, Peanut every single time will come in, for the punish. I think Faker just hijacking there, looking for something back, but doesn't even commit the flash, knows he was dead.
And the crazy thing about that play is it felt like not that they already knew they had the kill. It was just, do I have to use my ultimate, is what Peanut was doing.
Also, we just spotted Peanut on bot side. Like, he was spotted by Doran. They knew he was in the bot side, so I think that it's understandable, as you're saying, Wolf, as in a melee matchup, particularly with Silas who has so much sustain, you need to try and go in for that. But again, we knew he was there, and yes, his bot side camps are up, but it's Peanut. This is not the man that is just going to power farm, you know? If it's Canyon, maybe you get away with it.
He knows those pressure points, you know, and Peanut's very aware of this. And I think Faker's case, like, if he just keeps getting poked out, he's going to look for a play here.
Yeah, Charm is going to connect. That will save Zeka for now, but Faker actually still with his foot on the gas here in this game.
Just to contextualize further Faker's decision to go in there, I mean, he's 20 CS down, right? He doesn't want to just lose a few minions there because of that trade, because Peanut might be nearby. And that's the problem when you're falling this far behind in this matchup early, is you have to make risky decisions, and this time he gets punished.
Well, you can't make it anymore. Malignance is now in for Zeka.
Yeah, that is a really big spike, and in any situation where you have a mid laner like this, one that wants to dive and you have a Vi, as long as one of the two is fed, you're feeling amazing. Hanwha Life are really going to get a ton of value out of these double spikes here. We have the Sundered Sky, we have the Malignance, Owner, Faker, neither of them have it ready. So I would hope that T1 chooses not to go and fight this dragon, seeing everyone path towards bot. I know that's not what actually is going to happen, but I think they are at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to those items, and we'll see if they're able to navigate this play regardless.
Yeah, gold still extraordinarily close. That is only first blood gold really in it between these two teams, so nothing really to worry about.
I think the Cyclone has to be game-changing if this is going to be a fight they can win down these critical items.
That was so many Wukongs that Peanut just had to watch. The army of monkeys heading towards the Vi as, all right, cease and desist comes out. Peanut just starting this fight as he flashes away. Pop Blossom to stop any sort of follow-up, as now Peanut is just alone in the enemy jungle. Bullet time comes through. It does get a bit of damage down, but it's not going to kill anyone. And now Faker, with that Spirit Rush available, looking to try and close in on the rest of HLE. What was that, Peanut?
Item spikes be damned. If you go in alone, 1v3 into the enemy jungle, having just 2 spike advantage doesn't really matter.
Well, now Zeus is fighting against Doran. They, I was going to say trade ultimates, which I guess is kind of true, but Jace doesn't really have one. As Doran throws out the needlework, and Zeus is going to be feeling okay in this matchup. Oh my goodness, it is a Hextech Soul, as T1 have 2 Drakes already in this game.
Doran going to get chased away here. He does have teleport, so it's not going to be the end of the world, but pretty annoying for that to be delayed. And yeah, I mean, Peanut's decision there, he thinks, okay, we have such an advantage that we can actually just force this and blow up a single target, and that'll be the end of it. But you're playing into a Nico, and the zoning power here for T1 is just absolutely insane. So watch this again. Peanut does not have full information of this Banana Brush at all. Goes in, flashes the wall here, Keria zones the follow-up, gets the double root, and then Faker also delays here, takes out half of Zeka's health bar. And there's just not enough damage on this MF at this point in the game, and Peanut is just solo dead.
It's the double root. It's also the fact that if the Light has flash, I think there's actually a world there where they blow up Owner, and then maybe the fight is playable. But we knew the Light didn't have flash, and without him having that summoner available, you can't follow up in time with where he was. So Peanut just too quick on the trigger. That means that T1 even getting a really big advantage when it comes to the objectives. And there are so many champions on the map that use Hextech well. It's Gwen, right? It's Jace on the other. It's kind of disgusting.
Not to mention, Peanut also loses Flash on that play. You know, Flash to try to escape still dies. Can't turn the fight around, so...
And also, they didn't really need to go that ham. We were already talking about the fact that they had these item spikes. You can play it slow and probably still win. You don't need to like go for the opportunistic play. As Zeus here towards this bottom side, dealing with quite a few bad guys in the area, but does have Delight over there. And Peanut once again back to that dangerous location. It did give him some trouble before, as oh dear, Gumushi could be in trouble, as once again, cease and desist comes down. He does have flash, so he's going to use it. Bullet time coming on in, as the Cyclone there from Ona defending his AD carry. The flash not quite working, but now Doran throwing some needlework towards Peanut, who wants to get himself away and does Vault Breaker out. Charm will connect, as now Doran could be in a bit of trouble. fighting off his ex-teammate, but no one going to die outside of Viper, who fell unfortunately in the aftermath.
Beautiful collapse there from T1, and Doran tried to cancel the VIQ from Peanut over the wall with that flash.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite find it, but the big story is, even though Guma loses his sums, Owner ensures that the trade goes the way of T1.
Yeah, it was a really nice play there from Owner. Still has his flash available, and in this moment for Peanut, you're thinking you're the police. You're like, you can't be that far up. I'm gonna once again catch you. I'm going to punish. I'm gonna get this Kalista, but at the same time, there is that follow-up from T1. They are in the area, and you don't have enough damage to actually burst that Kalista down quickly enough. And so Guma kind of baits them in there, and it's 2 plays in a row for Peanut that looked like they could theoretically work. They were a smart idea in the initial setup, especially when you look at where Delight is here too. Like, okay, the rest of T1 is so far away on the bottom side, but Owner this close.
And the Magnet Storm did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, couldn't quite lock him down.
The follow flash to get the second activation is why Viper is the one who dies. Just can't do anything as this MF in this situation.
In hindsight, it might have been better because they would have killed Guma, but I think the play might have been worse. So for Hanwha, the fact that Guma gets out there, they only gave up 1. If they actually spend the extra time with that TP from Doran, I think they could have been in some real dire straits, but it's still T1 building the lead, getting the objective control.
Yep, money for nothing. Okay, Delight looking for another Shattering Strike. Gumiushi on a ward. They didn't know that he was walking over there as the Make It Rain coming on down once again. Korea taking a bit of damage as the Rift Herald is on the minds of HLE. Gumiushi level 11 now as Shock Blast does so much damage. And look at this, they're just in the blender. This time Delight making something happen as Doran gets into the backside. Owner has found Peanut once again. And now the bullet time's gonna need to save them. Gwen is immune, ladies and gentlemen. That's allowing Doran to survive. But the Rift Herald's still up and T1 are gonna take even more this game.
It's Peanut again, disconnected on the other side, but it's Owner who goes for the punish, and Owner has just been shutting him down in these big fights where there's just a big discrepancy between where Peanut is, the targets he's chosen, and Hanwha Life's ability to follow up at range.
It's the same play, except this time Delight is there, but he doesn't actually hit the CC chain onto Owner. Owner actually gets I think he W'd out. Let's take another look here. I'm pretty sure he W's out so he doesn't actually get hit by the Delight spear. There you go.
They burst the charm, or they burst the clone, but not the real Wukong.
And then when Peanut goes in, you need to be in sync with at least Zeka. The fact that Karria zones away Viper and Zeus is rough, but not the end of the fight. But you need to be in tune with your Ahri. That is the crux of this entire combo. And thus far, Hanwha Life are not hitting the execution threshold, which is crazy. It's Vi! It's Ahri!
And it's starting to look like maybe Peanut, like a lot of our other junglers, have probably given up practicing this champion more recently, because it is just permanently banned.
And I don't think it's really about his mastery of Vi. I think it's about the team's lack of coordination around it.
The team needs practice playing around it as well. Like, you need to keep that one well oiled.
They need to win this fight, and it's only a 1k deficit. Sums are available for Viper.
Okay, well, Peanut a little bit distracted there. Doesn't use any big cooldowns on the clone. They're not out of it just yet or anything like that. It's just some worrying signs so far in this game.
If they lose Drake, they are.
Yeah, Faker's Hijack's coming back available. I think that was a small window there for Hanwha Life to maybe look for something and play through that choke, clear up Banana Brush, but they just kind of give it up. And if T1 get this, like you said, Soul Point, and that's a bigger advantage than the small gold lead that T1 has right now. The fact that they can play around that Soul Point and threaten it, because it's basically checkmate in this game, gives Hanwha Life such a large lack of agency.
And Hanwha Life, if Peanut was spotted on that ward, the Drake would have already been gone. Now he will have time to be in position, at least threaten the steal. And there could be an opportunity, but we need to see a more synced up Hanwha Life if they want to win this, as there comes Doran in again.
Yeah, teleports coming through from everyone. Zeka going to make his way over. Let's see whether this Soul Point can be denied. Hex Gates coming on in as Zeka finding so much damage. There's the steal. It's Zeus that takes it down, and the Pop Blossom doesn't do nearly enough.
They're in the
pit. They do lose 2. They have 3 left, still alive. Shattering Strike not doing too much as Doran and Guma able to take down the Rel. And now it's even footing. Faker trying to find it. The dash cannon getting him into this fight is now Viper in trouble. The Canes land! And they try and keep him alive, but it does not work. Zeus trying to push them away. And him and Zek, I don't think it's going to be enough. T1 win the fight, but they don't take the Drake.
I think they'll take it, though, with the 2 Drake lead they have and the incredible plays they had there on the exit. It looked like Honda Life was maybe just going to be able to get that fight there around the pit, but T1 outplay them. The moment here where you see finally Delight gets the engage he's been looking for all game. The follow-up from Zeka, the bullet time is there, and the shock blast. That's the wombo combo you're looking for, but look at this. They get a little bit split in the outset, and then T1 are able to punish.
But this is where you think you can just exit from the play, but they want more. Delight, 5 levels down, by the way. The burst from Guma and Doran just catches him completely off guard, kind of continuing his struggle. And then here, Viper, I don't think needed to flash the initial needles that came through.
Oh god, the chain's gonna have to be flashed here by Zeus, as Faker doing so much work, and Owner is there with the follow-up. Hands the Goat an assist, and they're going to look for a top lane out of turret.
It's again the side lane overload. We saw T1 do this so many times. Yesterday against KT, but also a lot in the last 2 years. And this time it's Zeus on the receiving end, instead of being the one that benefits from it.
Yeah, and you know, it's not necessarily going to be, okay, Faker, if he wants to auto that turret, he might not be getting out alive. But either way, the thing about this side lane pressure too is that those were the big leads that Hanwha had in the top and mid lane. The solo laners had the big advantage. Now T1 win one fight, you just get a little bit of power on the map. And now you can't even clear vision safely as Zeus here on this Jace when the collapse is going to come through. You're not safe. As a Jace, I mean, Wukong top used to be kind of a counter pick to this champion, but you're just not going to get away from this monkey when Owner wants to kill you.
Man, this is very intense, but T1 going from strength to strength after their victory yesterday, looking like they have not skipped a beat. 3,000 gold, the lead here in game number 1. And game number 1 is normally a pretty happy place for HLE.
That's why they have really excelled. Now the thing for T1 they need to be careful of, because this is a comp consisting of basically only squishy champions, right? There's a decent amount with the Shroud, the health that comes through for both the Wukong as well as the Silas, but you do need to be careful with that Vi in particular. The CC chain is still there from Hanwha, but we're slowly getting to the point, as mentioned, where Hanwha, unless they get a crazy execution on the play, they're just going to be outstatted behind in items, and you don't get that much leeway because you also don't have great front line.
Well, the other cool thing about T1's comp when ahead, we talked obviously about what's going to happen when one of these teams gets ahead. They'll probably steamroll, right? Well, T1 has the lead right now, and it gives Keria so much agency in this game too, because you're playing a dive comp with this Ahri Vi where you want to go on to a single target and blow them up, and then Keria could just wait and re-engage and ruin your whole setup so easily and give T1 those opportunities. You know, the Nico obviously very strong in this draft, great with Kalista, powerful in lane, but so strong when you can also then, you know, hang out in the front and deny those engages just by being in the area and then get fates called out as well. When you're ahead, T1 have so much power.
Well, right now Viper is just trying to hold on to the sliver of health this outer turret still has remaining, and Zeka could be in trouble. Spirit Rush picked up here as Keria comes in. Charm is pretty nice here and is going to land, and Keria now taking a huge chunk of damage. This could be important with the Otacon up and available. HLE looking for an opportunity.
Zeus has TP, can join at a moment's notice. If they wanted to try to say, hey, you know, 2/3 of Keria's health bar is enough to take an Otacon, but I just don't think it's the call here.
IE done now for Viper was really waiting, and if he already had that done, I think they might have actually tried to pull the trigger and at least force a fight. I don't think you can, from this position, actually commit to the Otacon.
Especially because Keria can back and get back so quickly with the Hex Gates as well, which is a big factor here.
We do see, yeah, Viper, that IE is good, but like, how much does he actually get to use it in the fights? I think that's going to be one of the big issues, because thus far, T1 have already been kind of taking him out of the game, and it kind of reminiscent of what T1 did yesterday to Dokdom, with so many backline threats that they have on this team. And you're an immobile AD carry, and I'm sorry, but just that Bloodthirster shield is not going to be enough.
Never got it.
And he also only has some brown bags here as well that were free. But it's not quite going to help you as far as maneuverability is concerned, even with the ability to strut your stuff.
The cleanse isn't going to be enough, and the flash isn't going to be enough. You need your team to be there. You need your team, you need the setup, and you need to be the team that's getting the first kill.
Well, they're going to look for it here as Delight going to be able to use that blast cone, but he's down incredibly low and will get taken down. Possible overextension, though, as the Orbit Deception does a lot of work, as Faker dashing around the battlefield with his hijacked Spirit Rush. Now Pop Blossom is going to find only one, but it's Zeus. That is a great target as now Zeka looking for the jump. The bullet time doing massive damage, but Doran now looking to get on top of Viper, who is completely alone and will get eviscerated. The wallets so heavy here for T1, and they just take HLE out of the fight.
It was the fake out from Carrier, the double fake out. It looked like it was just the clone coming towards them, but it was him.
It was him. Zeus tries to react, but the biggest part of this is Delight dies, right? If you have that Magnet Storm, so many of these things go better for you. Maybe not the bullet time, because I think Viper couldn't have gotten any more value than he did in that one, but there wasn't any follow-up. They were so split, and so Doran just runs at Viper, the misfortunate immobile, and now Zeka clashing with Faker.
Yeah, Chain's not going to connect here as Delight will come in, but so will Carrier. Magnet Storm picked up by Faker here, taking a fair bit of damage, but they've taken the soul point. They've gotten exactly what they want. And Faker is able to keep himself alive. 5,000 gold now, the lead for T1.
So the whole thing here is Delight coming forward, gets rooted, buffers it, gets away, but they know where he is. Faker's just not going to give him even a second. No space here. Comes in with his ultimate. They get the knockups. Owner takes him out. And now for Hanwha Esports, how are you going to re-engage without that? And then the trick here from Carrier. And Zeus tries to boop him away, but the damage is done. And Viper, he gets enough space from that hammer to actually channel his ultimate fully, but then they just run towards him and kill him because he's misfortune, and they didn't get any kills.
Just didn't have the damage.
A little bit more CC could have been the difference maker, as you highlight. Had that Rel been alive, that could have been playable. But T1, as they often do, when they get in this position where the game is just messy, there's fights happening everywhere. And I gotta say, if you're Ari and you're playing into double clone and a Shroud, that's annoying. Yeah. That's not fun.
Look at this guy, just sending Merkwolves into the enemy jungle. Kind of love this from Carrier. Very cool stuff. All right, Doran going to get jumped on here by Zeus, but he doesn't look too worried about it. They do get into the circle as Doran just blasts his way out of there. No flashes, no flash, sorry, on Doran, but it's only Faker that's missing it outside of, and Carrier on T1, but Gumayusi having his, Owner having his, very important here for T1.
I mean, T1, they're going to have Fate's call back in just 10 seconds here, and they have full control over this choke point. They don't necessarily need to start Baron, but they are going to keep Hanwha worried and interested, and that's big potential. Hanwha tried to come in here and face check. Just a lot of pressure around the fact that Hanwha don't have any idea where T1 are. Look how careful and methodical they have to be to come over and clear this out. And I think with the misfortune in this composition, who's also currently backing, there's no way Hanwha can go, oh, well, they're not here. We'll threaten this. It's not in that game state.
Yeah. It's making us look back at that draft and think, you know, perhaps something with a little added range. Like the Jhin could have worked.
Yeah, I thought the Jhin was the right call.
I gotta say, though, when I look at how the early skirmishes played out, I don't know if anything that Hanwha could have picked could have made the difference, right?
It's a good point.
I do think that map none of us are a fan of. I don't think that it has been effective for a long time, right? We've seen even some of the best maps, Rule or Aiming, kind of drop it for that exact reason. And as an AD carry, the most value you're going to get, and this scenario is Viper is obviously just getting that one good ult, but the Light has also been struggling, so that's not really happening.
And I don't know if the Jhin would have helped Peanuts overextensions in those first few fights, which is really where the big story is here. It's not like Viper's having a bad game. He's 0-3-2, but that's because he's MF, and that's because his team is behind into this insane engage composition here from T1 with melees that can just rip you to shreds.
Yeah. Speaking of being ripped to shreds, Peanut going to try and get over the wall, but the flash is there for Owner, and he just knocks down the Vi. There is nowhere that Peanut is safe in this game.
And T1 were ready to say, we're going to trade Vi for Kalista, but the way they did it and the setup they got feels so powerful. And this Vi that has just not been allowed to be played in any of our road to MSI. It is just our most banned champion here in the LCK. Peanut has a 0-5-2 performance on it, and T1, they're very happy with the risk they took.
Viper doesn't have his flash available.
There is also no jungler. So let's see whether HLE can try and kill T1 before they take this Baron. It looks like it's going to be impossible. Under 4,000 health as Delight goes in, finds the Magnustorm. Let's see whether they can get the kills with the Pop Blossom. Doesn't do too much. They take down the Gwen, but this is still Baron picked up for T1. They go for the fight and they're looking to try and turn it. Gumayusi takes down Zeka. They've dealt with this Rel at the same time, and T1 say we'll just take everything.
Well, there you go. That's probably the game-winning play. They already had such a massive lead. We didn't expect Hanwha was going to be able to win that fight as Carrier potentially punished here. We're getting trolled by the observers. Owner going to check it out.
Oh, dear. No, I think it might be Peanut getting punished here just a little bit. Slowed down by the Rend. Nimbus Strike going to be coming up pretty soon here. And Faker comes on over. He's just going to escort Owner in and escort HLE out of this first game.
And we can talk about the drafts. But for me, it's just the form of Hanwha Life. They look desynced. They don't really seem like they were ready for the high-tempo playstyle that again, T1 has been playing towards this exact type of skirmishy brawly style for a while. Now this fight, we kind of knew it was a done deal from the beginning. This is just a Hail Mary attempt from Hanwha.
Yeah, I mean, Zeus is looking for Shock Blast angle and some time. Faker doesn't let him have it. Carrier's ultimate does practically nothing, but it doesn't matter because the fight is just so split because T1 have full control over this area. Peanut wasn't alive. He wasn't there. And right afterwards, he tries to punish, and he dies, and now he's not alive here for what is going to finally be Hextech Soul here for T1. And this game could not be more over.
It could not. So that is going to be the Soul picked up here for T1. They're going to be able to push in this bottom lane. They've already taken the mid lane inhibitor. And Zeus, he's looking for a bit of bounty gold. And I assume T1 are okay with him taking it because it's not going to save his Nexus.
We had 2 T1 predictors, and on our global side, we had several 3-0 Hanwha predictors. Hanwha Life came in as the massive favorites, but T1 having the momentum carried on from yesterday into this first game for sure. I think a lot of people are rethinking expectations after this one.
Yeah, me included, feeling a little bit silly for some of my opening statements here because it did feel like HLE were the better team before, based on our assessment. But momentum is so powerful, and T1 in this stadium, man, just feels like they are unlocked an extra level. And Faker now picking up a Magnus Storm for himself. That is going to be 2 inhibitors. This is, of course, feeling like a little bit of ceremony because this game is all but over. That is going to be a bit of an engage on Doran, but he does go into the mist and now looks to fight 4 people. Going golden here. Those big old scissors doing some work. There is the Magnus Storm finally. The bullet time coming in, but the wallets are so big. The pop loss are massive as well, and T1 just slaughter them in their own house, and they'll destroy it at the same time. T1 1-0 in the series.
From the perspective of Hanwha Life, you got reverse swept, and you end the game that I think you should have been happy with when it comes to draft, with a clean ace, and really a lot of fights that just didn't go your way at all.
I mean, in terms of momentum and mindset-wise, I don't think you could be any lower as Hanwha Life after, like you said, getting reverse swept. That puts you in such an abysmal position. You had the extra prep day advantage over T1. You were able to watch them play yesterday, and they still tricked you. They left the Vi open, and then the Vi play just was not backed up by good team coordination from Hanwha Life. So you got the Giga pick, and Peanut does 5.3k damage and a 0-7, I believe, at the end of the game. And if you're the coaching staff after this one, if you're the players after this one, you're really going to have to get your head, your mindset in the right place after a loss like this. The loss streak for Hanwha continues.
Yeah, that is not what you want to see. Thankfully, they have Mowgli there, they have Dandy there, and maybe they can help Peanut out of this rut. I think a lot of it came down to not expecting that Vi to be left up, not having too many plans in this game, number one. And HLE may be scared of another reverse sweep because now that's impossible. So I guess they've ticked that off. Maybe that's the code.
That's something, at least.
I mean, we need to clutch at some straws, don't we? As, people that predicted HLE. We'll see whether they can bounce back. Time for us to take a short break. When we get back, we'll see whether T1 are going to continue their onslaught here in Busan.
우리 이번에 바텀 밀 수 있어?
바텀 밀자. 바텀 밀어.
얘네 라클 구리긴 한데
한번 해보자.
해보자 봐.
미드도 오긴.
매우 없어 매우 없어. 렐만 조심 뭉쳐있는 거.
내일 내일 풀 돌았다 이제.
나 괜찮아. 나 또 볼게 이거.
타워부터 타워
타워 쳐봐. 나 괜찮고. 할리군 봐줘.
맞아.
다음 라인부터
비포.
페이지 라인 좋아.
나이스.
Life on the wild side gets so lonely. Wanna sing a lullaby to someone new. I must have lost my hand last night. You're on my mind. You're on my mind. You are standing right in front of me, baby. We are living out our lives with this fantasy. I'm starting to see so clearly. You're the best thing that I've got. Yeah, I'm sucking energy from someone else. Don't wanna fake it all by myself. You are standing right in front of me, baby. We are living life right out of this memory. I'm starting to see so clearly. You're the best thing that I've got. Always ends like this. When I think I'm healing, if I had one wish, could you save me from my feelings? Chemicals can't fix all these wounds that I'm concealing. I'm lost in light and sound. I need you to hold me down. Baby, won't you give me a sign? Oh, I need you to. Just go when they turn on the lights, I'll run back to you. One touch and you're getting me high, oh tell me it's true. Find me at the end of the night, I'll run back to you. Always ends like this. Taste of something stronger, dancing on my lips. Now I'm falling 10 feet under. Try to drown it out, but I'm swimming in deep water, fading in and out. I need you to hold me now, baby. Won't you give me a sign? Oh, I need you to. Just go when they turn on the lights, I'll run back to you. One touch and you're getting me high, oh tell me it's true. Find me at the end of the night, I'll run back to you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sajik Indoor Stadium where T1 felt the home team buff and are up 1-0 against Hanwha Life Esports. The red side dominance continues yet again. Digon here alongside Wadid and Ox to break down that game number 1.
New magic trick. Open Vi. And they're completely lost. They don't know how to deal with Vi, right? Like, what's happening?
And the thing is, you know, normally in this situation, red side is kind of banning Vi for the whole series.
Yeah.
And now it's just off the table. You know, you've dealt with it. And you kind of wonder, okay, maybe there was like a thought process, because they obviously went into this planning to leave the Vi open. And, you know, Vi, not the best against like Gwen, Wukong, and Nico also. It's kind of hard to pin them down because they have the clones. It's hard to like find a time where you feel good about ulting them. But it really felt like the big thing here was Peanut just had a horrible Vi performance, and it felt like he was uncomfortable on the pick.
I mean, I feel like they had the early advantage with the Ahri and Vi making a successful gank on the mid lane, but look at this Vi ultimate.
And the thing is, Ona still had his clone out of this, so like, what was... I have no idea what the game plan... I mean, clearly they wanted the follow-up, but it was just so far away.
And you know what's worse? It's gonna happen again, the same thing. Once again, you're gonna ult Wukong and flash out. What is happening? Like, I really don't know what's their idea behind, because, and also I feel like the light skill usage of Rel was kind of off as well. I really don't know why he's just demounted every single time before the team fight.
And the thing is, you know, I just feel like when you're going first pick Vi on this pick that has so much weight on it, you know, you end up giving over like the Gwen to Doran as well, which he had a great game on. You know, he was playing into a matchup where we've seen Zeus play the Jason, the Gwen, and run away with the matchup. Doran did really well, even traded flashes. He lost his to Zeus and managed to answer back and had a great game from there on out. And if you're first picking this Vi to do that, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I mean, both those picks that T1 got back were the ones that were zoning out the follow-up after Peanut went on in. The Gwen having zone control over Zeka. On the opposite side, the Nico preventing Delight and the rest of the team getting on in. And then T1 take control of the rest of the game here. And it is an exclamation point for what is to come in the rest of the series.
Yeah, again, the setup is off. You are not allowed to walk in there if you do not have the mid priority. And I think they should know that, but it's not happening. The T1 comp is all about just jump over the wall, chase them down. They have Silas, Wukong, which is really great to just chase them down. And also, they're not dropping this Drake as well. They're just still desperate to fight for this vision control when Jace has no flash, and you cannot win this fight clearly.
Yeah, they end up getting the ult. It's a good flash from Viper, but Zeus doesn't have his. He gets caught. And then here, Viper... Like, the ult, this is one of the few ults that actually gets decent value, but it's not enough to really finish targets off, and as soon as Doran's in his face, the MF just can't really do anything, and it just feels like they kind of fall apart. And considering, you know, they had a strong start with the Vi Ahri, typically a really powerful combo. The first 3 picks for HLE in this draft, I feel like there was a lot of power for them. They must have been feeling confident, and it fell apart so quickly.
I mean, again, they are underperforming, clearly, because I feel like Zeus should win this matchup harder, because I feel like I just saw Doran being just completely okay after the first laning phase, because he was just literally same CS, and he was getting the priority against Zeus, which cannot make sense. I mean, I feel like just every single thing that HLE had in this game was all about the misplay, and I think you have to just just forget about what we did in game 1 and just reset your mindset, just going into the next.
I mean, go back into that right before we had that first pause. It was Zeus flashing away from Doran in that 1v1. So surprising to see the come up here by Doran. For many people, maybe not the T1 fans, but for many people, because of how dominant Zeus has been throughout his whole career, and specifically this LCK season, leads the league in CS, leads the league in experience within the laning phase.
And I mean, obviously HLE, this is all showing from them. You know, they just got reverse swept by Gen G, maybe still reeling from that, but for T1, this game was cleaner than honestly any of the games they had against KT. It feels like they just go in from strength to strength on the back of this and had a really strong performance there. And if this form continues, it's not just a question of them beating HLE, but looking towards MSI, they'll have a great run there if they continue playing like this.
Yeah, 4 game losses in a row here for Hanwha Life Esports, but don't fret. The team that has won game 1 every time here in Busan has lost the series. That said, they're going to have to do it against T1. Let's find out. Game number 2 starts right now.
Oh, Digon, that is my kind of sample size. Oh, baby. Because we've only had 2 other series. But still, he is absolutely correct. The reverse sweep that does seem to have stayed with Hanwha Life Esports still in their minds. The best thing is, Digon did say 4 game losses in a row. They can go to 5 and still be in with a shot.
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to make sure expectation-wise everyone watching kind of realizes is that despite the fact that the game was incredibly stompy, based on drafts, it was always going to be when one team pulled ahead. We could have had the exact opposite scenario if Peanut played a bit measured, wasn't going in like that, or Delight hits a few more abilities, and Hanwha get a massive lead, and they snowball the win. I don't think Hanwha fans should be worried necessarily, unless we see another one of these in Game 2. I think it's the type of game that makes T1 look incredibly strong. Well, they played really well, but once you get to the latter half of that game, it was almost a foregone conclusion. So let's see, as we move into the second draft, what Hanwha's form here is in Game 2.
Yeah, it's going to be the resilience tested here for Hanwha Life Esports. And we've seen they don't really seem to care too much about losing. Let's see whether that continues here on this particular stage.
Peanut and Delight in particular, I think need to step it up after that game. Viper, definitely Guma got the better of him, but I think part of that is also the matchup and the fact he was playing MF, which you know we're still not super excited about. But Peanut needs to step it up. This player is very important for how this team functions, because we have highlighted the contrast between really both of these 2 teams and teams like Gen G is that their junglers are often enabling. Now, after that Wukong performance, I'm not sure if I can still say that about Owner, because he did kind of go haywire. It was 10-1, I think, near the end. But more often than not, their job is to facilitate early action and try and make sure that these skirmishes go the right way, as this is a clear Rumble B1 setup here for Hanwha.
Unless the Trundle is banned, in which case it's a clear Scion B1 pickup.
That's the big branching path. As I was on the same page as you, Max, I was thinking that we're going to see a Trundle ban to come through here in this final spot. And that would have, of course, likely just ban T1, or force T1 to ban Scion in that 3rd slot. As
there it is.
And so that's what we're going to see. So you can ban Scion here unless Doran has something prepared into it, but the Gwen is already gone. Doran not known to play Nidalee in the top lane, so I imagine they'll just take it away.
But if you
might just Yarick.
Yeah, if you ban Scion, you do play into the Rumble, right?
Yeah.
Which, that is definitely something that's quite scary, especially with Gwen already taken up the board.
See what they do decide to take away here. It might just be the Rumble because it is the more frightening of the 2 options. Let's see, it is going to be the Rumble. So there we go, Scion up and available. Can just be locked in here for Zeus.
Zeus is not necessarily a Scion-type player. He doesn't like to play tanks as much, but I feel like Scion, the mastery we've seen in the LCK this year on this pick, you can Zeus Scion. Like, you can be aggressive, you can trade aggressively, you can win lane on Scion for sure.
We've also seen him carry teamfights just with the way he's able to get into the backline, be a giant behemoth. This does open the possibility of a Doran Camille, which I'm kind of down for.
You think what if they just Camille TF?
I'd love to see it again. They won't be able to get the Trundle alongside it, which is also phenomenal in that. I mean, that
so
draft
fun.
Was the quintessential perfect 1-3-1. Was so beautiful to see it, but we're not going to see an exact replica of that. There are still certainly opportunities.
Other picks like the Rise, the Victor were ones I think T1 were considering here going into this first part of their red side draft, just because they're champs that can side lane really well. I mean, you already know that Scion is going to be on the Rift, so his side laning isn't very strong necessarily. He gets the later parts of the game, and Guma will get his hands on the Varus, which does give a roar through the crowd as it's one of his most famed picks.
Yeah, particularly right here. I think that makes a lot of sense. A little smile there.
I do think that it's going to be a different flavor. I think he has to be the on-hit version if he's ever going to get through this round.
For sure. Also, the Xin Zhao is open for Peanut. Xin Zhao Victor, to me, makes a lot of sense. The Victor theoretically should have a really good matchup into the Rise, be able to bully it out, outrange it with a pretty substantial margin. You can also do this, and it is Zeka, so I am completely okay with this.
And I also imagine Zeka is probably a bit mad after the last game because he did play decently well. Instead, he just plays Victor, which is a little bit of a shame, but I think makes so much more sense in the context of this series.
I agree.
Because taking the Victor away from Faker is
the fearless angle.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fearless angle, and it's very powerful here. Now let's see what that counter pick is going to be for Doran, or perhaps just to lock in the Pantheon and prio that, so you can have double global with Ryze Pantheon here. And that still allows you to play, picks like the Camille incredibly well. It's a similar story. You just side lane pressure, you have that global to back it up, and you just blow up the carry in the back line when you engage in the team fights.
There's still the off chance that this is Pantheon support. Carrier has played it before. I don't think it's likely, given the performance
very good.
No, it was bad. It was bad. I just feel like we should mention it. Because it did happen before. But
and the Camille ban is so obvious here, right? And the Xayah ban furthers like the same sort of identity where you're like, okay, I'm going on the back line. We've got a Victor here that's fairly vulnerable. I don't want them to have the Xayah, that extra safety. So it does make a ton of sense. You could also ban Ezreal here, I suppose, in the same vein as T1.
I don't know about Vayne. Haven't seen her.
No matter who I'm casting with, honestly, it does it to me every time.
Did you catch that cool cinematic?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Vayne.
Oh,
she was in it.
She's in the cinematic, and we all watched the Uzi video.
I know.
Yeah.
The Renata ban is interesting here, as Varus Renata is really powerful in lane, but
I like
Renata
it with
value,
the Nico banned already.
Yeah, well, the Renata isn't that high value against Hanwha's comp in team fights yet. So that's the part that was a little bit puzzling to me, but I do think it's a strong laning support. But Carrier, we know he has a few range supports he does like to play.
Let's see what he's thinking about now, as Gumayusi's pick is to come through the Poppy.
Yeah, this is
Could
almost
be
a triple flash.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can put Poppy top, which I don't think you really want to do that into Sign, but you could. Right? And then the Pantheon and Poppy both could go in multiple positions, so we don't really quite know yet where everything's going. And I like this from T1. This is one of the things that you can do on red side, as this is a no-brainer. Jhin and then maybe Nautilus is one that you could look towards if you want to have a guaranteed way of locking down that backline. Leona is still open as well.
Leona feels a little bit safer here, especially because if you have Leona in this, you have such a great front line. You have Xin Zhao, Leona, and the Scion, and you just engage from far away, and the Jhin can follow up. But the Nautilus, I think, does work here. You might want to save it for later.
Rakan?
Yeah, Rakan is difficult
Rakan
to play
and
into the Poppy, obviously.
I mean, it is, yeah.
Okay,
it will be it.
And this is purely because the Poppy was on the other side, looking like it was possibly heading into the support position, and Best are going to be locked in. And now the question mark is still between the Poppy and the Pantheon, but Ona's Pantheon has been so incredibly good.
I think when you're playing a comp like this with the Ryze, you want to have the Pantheon in the jungle because he's going to be more omnipresent. He's going to be able to follow up on the side lanes a little bit better. We'll be able to get into the backline. We'll just have more farm to access the Jhin and the Victor, just more powerful as a champion there. The Poppy, much more utility-based, is going to still be able to make that impact with their ultimate in the jungle. Can be decent into the Nautilus, obviously, is great for anti-dive. So a Poppy quite strong when you have a strong pushing lane like the Varus. And I like this setup with Carrier on Poppy more than had it been Owner's Poppy.
Oh, yeah.
And T1 is playing a very similar style, right? We have a carry in the top lane. We have a very brawly kind of looking for the skirmishes style composition with the double globals. Hanwha Life kind of pulled back. They're like, okay, we tried a more skirmishing style. It just didn't work at all. Part of that was the play, but I think part of it is Hanwha just saying, we are going to play it safe. We're going to play a lot more around Viper. We're going to get a consistent team fight comp, and we are just going to match in the 5v5, which last game they weren't able to.
Yep, and I think you say around Viper, but I think a lot around Zeker as well. I think this composition does kind of scream, Zeker played really well in the last game. Let's all facilitate that and see whether he can take us over the line, because the Victor is going to be doing so much of the damage in the later stages of the game. We'll see how well the Jhin is going to perform, but we know sometimes struggles on those numbers later on. And T1, once again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they've got carries coming from just about everywhere and ways to really mess up these fights. Let's get into game number 2 and see whether T1 can get to an early match point.
T1 하나 둘 셋.
Oh man, you really get an idea of how many people there are in the Sajik Indoor Stadium here when they do the T1 fan chant. You absolutely do. This place was shaking.
I'm pretty sure that's also the same skin, and he's on the same position as he was in the quarterfinal against LNG when he found the outplay. Guma, the 1v2, you know, when our mutual...
Wait, and he has gone lethality.
Yeah, when our mutual friend, Mr. Draco, said that he's just better, That was right here.
I was also in the arena when that happened.
I was here as well. And I think I had hearing issues after that.
That was a good play. Taking a look at the rune setups here, I don't think we see anything too surprising. Zeka going for Airy for maximum attempt at keeping the pressure in that lane. And Keria, he is perhaps the biggest enjoyer of Spellbook. This man, I feel like on every single champion where you don't strictly need something else has been going it.
Yeah, and is going to give you a lot of power, especially because how well Poppy can just straight up TP to an objective and ult 2 people away or just ult the jungler away. I want to be able to be anywhere at any time with that teleport. And the double smite, obviously quite powerful when you also have a Varus, as Guma has proven in the past. Did go for Comet in this game. Did not go for lethal tempo despite the Scion that is on the other side. Just knowing there's a ton of damage with this Rise, I suppose. Feels like he wants to hit those backline targets and blow up the Victor, follow up on the Pantheon. I suppose that's the idea.
They do have a lot of damage, and Doran should be able to have a decent chance of getting through the tanks. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of damage onto Keria. Viper with that 4th bullet available takes him down below 300.
I still get caught off guard how often these level 2 spikes just completely cook a bot lane. You're like, guys, I know all of you know. We know. But still, nicely done there as Guma.
Okay, Guma in a lot of trouble here as he's lit on fire. Delight catching him off guard there just a little bit. We don't have a lot of context as to what was happening here. As Zeka pushing Faker underneath the turret. The Victor actually doing a decent job here in the lane thus far. That death rate starting to hurt.
Yeah, Guma just wanting to get that last wave, but unfortunately will not get it as a result of that Ignite. Can't stay for it anymore, so a lot of minions lost. I mean, he's sitting on 6 CS.
That's a really big deal. I want you to look at the experience bar as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a whole level behind, a full level.
Okay, that's insanity. Still, the wave is stacking up, and at least Keria will be able to get a level or 2, but still, I like that we're checking out the Zen lane. As I say Zen, my god, Doran is so close to dead.
Like I said, you can Zeus this now.
Yeah.
Scion is very strong.
He is going to eat a potion. That should help him, at least momentarily.
Hit the roar.
Yeah, the roar of the Slayer, cutting that armor down really does mean that Q hurts a lot.
Still has Cookie as well. Zeus is really, I think, feeling confident. Peanut, this is even, like, with Zinzo, you can't dive this. He does get pinged, so I think that they do have a suspicion. Peanut not going to run the risk. I don't know if they know where Owner is. Owner, of course, now currently on that bot side, Krabby.
Yeah.
Scary moment there for Doran, though, for sure.
Yeah, so things going okay as far as the laning phase is concerned, but that is not what HLE had. Like, that wasn't the problem that they had. It was coordination in teamfights and skirmishes where the issues started to crop up, and that was where T1 started to excel. Speaking of which, Owner comes towards this mid lane as Zeka. That's a decent amount of value on the gravity field. Doesn't have to use the flash, but had just teleported back to this lane. That is a big deal.
It doesn't feel great when you come back to lane and lose most of your health, and now struggling to get the trades you were looking for. It's too high risk. As question mark pings going down here on T1 on the location of Peanut, tracking where he is well here as the lane swap does come through. Keria's going to have to babysit this wave here, but again, so much farm lost. Once again here for Guma, finds himself now nearly 20 CS down.
20
He's not going to get this whole wave either.
At 5 minutes into the game, that is a very large number. Still, might be able to get some value from this lane swap. And there is a cannon up here towards the top side, and he does get it. There's the piercing arrow to lock that one down. So Gumisha coming on over, and Zeus might park himself in this brush, but of course T1 did that little strategy yesterday, so I don't think he's going to get caught off guard.
No, you can see Guma stand still. I'm pretty sure he just was kind of waiting for Zeus to walk out. Not going to fall for it. As we have both teams, I think, looking towards that dragon.
There's such a huge hole in the top and bottom lane in terms of farm right now, in terms of experience. There's a significant lead, obviously, still there in that top lane, but Dragon is going to go the way of T1 here. Timings of these resets, later back for Zeus, and this is Keria coming over with Owner, and obviously with the, Abessa in the bottom lane who hits level 6, there's just no real opportunity for contest. You see Zeus is going to ult back to the bottom wave here to catch what he can, but the Dragon still goes over. So once again, T1, full Dragon control in this series.
Still, I feel like HLE have been really good at picking up every minion wave, so getting maximal experience in this game thus far. As Doran's looking to go a little bit aggressive here towards the bottom side. Farming Cinder now done for Zeus. He can continue pushing things pretty comfortably
It's interesting though that T1 basically had 2 losing lanes and was still able to get Prio on the objective, right?
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's with the timing of the resets, like Zeus reset so late and didn't have TP and then just ulted down, and they were like, all right, because Doran went first. Doran had TP bottom, and I think that's a big part of why Hanwha were not able to contest there. And I feel if you look at the experience, you can see Guma's actually completely caught up to Viper with the time he spent alone there in the top side. So still a significant CS difference that you could see reflected in the gold lead for Viper, but things looking a little bit better than they were moments before.
We also had Peanut, who was just pathing towards topside. And as you say, really not looking to contest. And the first Dragon, I don't think is really going to be too worrying, but it's more in the context of the series thus far, where objective control really has been T1's strong suit. But Hanwha Life this time around can be very happy to just kind of sit around until they've hit like an item and a half at least with the amount of scaling that they have. T1 obviously still have elements that scale well. I think the Rise is a no-brainer. Poppy really never loses value, and Ambessa becomes a much bigger problem in side lane. But as a cohesive unit, I do think you can struggle as you get towards the later stage. And if you have to fight 5v5s against Hanwha and you can't get on top of Viper, things can become very tough.
Well, speaking of things that are tough, Zeus here underneath his outer turret in the bottom lane. Ooh, Roar of the Slayer going to get blocked here by the Scion. By the Ambessa. That's going to deny a bit of that farm. Zeka dealing with Faker here in the mid lane, who did creep towards that bottom side. That's why we were saying that Zeus could be in trouble, and still he might be, as Owner is in position.
Faker as well,
yeah,
threatening.
Commit, but they're just going to get plates out of this, and it's going to deny Zeus a lot of farm. So this is still a big win, even if they don't get a kill. And Doran is even looking to deny a back here. We'll proxy this wave. And obviously on the top side, this means grub control does go to Peanut, but with a Scion and a Victor, do you really care that much as T1 if this does go over? I think the answer is probably no.
Yeah, a lot of damage from that dancing grenade, but like you were saying, Grub's going to be the trade for a decent amount here towards the bottom side. Zeus is just trying to play that weak side Scion. And here is the Realm Warp in as Faker off to the side, doesn't get hit by that Q, and in comes Owner to finish him off. First blood going over to the Pantheon as a teleport. Does come through. Actually, Zeka just walking down towards this bottom side as Faker just executes himself, denies the money to HLE.
That's huge. And, you know, if that Q hits on the Realm Warp, it's a little bit different, I think, for how the story does eventuate, but Faker's able to avoid it. And that's a big win. You know, no real loss here for Hanwha Life. Or, sorry, no trade back for Hanwha Life.
I feel like the only cross map we're getting is Peanut.
Red buff?
Getting red buff.
Yeah.
That's not really what you're looking towards. Zeka got close, but not actually getting it, and still committing his flash, right? So that is a even trade in summoners, and obviously a big trade down here with, I think, so close as well, Zeka, to trying to get on top of Faker's.
There's Depth Charge, and there's the main CC. I think he's dead. Yeah.
They got him this time.
Yeah, they did get him this time, so there we go. 1 versus 1 as far as those kills are concerned. Here on the bottom side of the map, Doran in a little bit of trouble as well, but is able to dash out of the way of the gravity field, and he will be, at least for now, okay. And that is just going to be the Gromp stolen away by Peanut. Viper here in this mid lane, actually getting some plates himself. So that gold lead's still going to be there for HLE.
Yeah,
all plates actually going over here. Zeka collects another on the bottom side.
Peanut's here, and Viper has his ultimate, so there's just no way you could try to collapse there and punish that. So that was a really good judgment by Hanwha Life in that situation. Zeka gets the plate, they get the kill onto Faker. That goes over to Viper as well. And we'll see how this did all break out. It's just Peanut and Delight on the other edge. Delight flashes for the ult, and it's really easy to just chain this CC together. Nothing Faker can do.
Very straightforward play there. Nicely done. Good roam by Delight and Viper. And what we're seeing now, I think the pivot from Hanwha that they made in draft is warranted, because the game that KT did win yesterday was when T1 wasn't able to completely break open the game in laning phase, right? We've seen this team really excel when they can just keep accelerating the pace, keep catching people off guard. This comp obviously still does that insanely well with the double global, with the Poppy. So if you ever have a moment of weakness, if you're not ready to contest an objective, you can definitely get in trouble. But this time around for Hanwha Life, the engage is amazing. The front to back is really threatening. And now, at this point in the game, they can go for that Scion dive.
Yeah.
That's not going to remain the case.
I think for T1, speaking of the objectives, Hanwha might not be ready for with this Poppy and double global. They're not set up for this one, and Peanut's just gone.
Case in point.
We just knew like exactly what was going to happen here, and Hanwha Life we're only really half contesting anyways.
It's a bit early.
Hanging around.
Yeah, this dragon is going to be secured. Deadly Flourish not going to be enough to stop that one, as it is going to be an Ocean Soul, not the most pivotal, but still something worth going for here as T1 are set up. Only one away from Soul Point here in this game. That is still so much pressure.
They got Doran's TP, and he's still going back to the top lane. They're not going to send Faker there, so Sion going to get some alone time here, and that's a small win that Han will get back, but still T1 once again stacking these dragons.
Well, Zeka here on this bottom side catches the wave. Faker lying in wait. We'll see whether any sort of jump scare will occur. Looks like it's probably not going to be too much of an issue as Carrier moving into the enemy jungle. I don't think he's going to be able to stop Peanut from taking away his own blue buff, but still getting so much information and vision on this Poppy.
The Carrier is saving a smite for more important matters, such as stealing dragons.
Indeed.
Still,
Barons.
Barons, Otacons, really anything that actually tilts the game in favor. Viper, definitely the most ahead member here for Hanwha Life. My question is, how much are they actually going to be able to use that? Because the Jhin, obviously the ult is going to always get a crazy amount of value with the amount of frontline and CC that you have in your team. But actually walking up to so many of these characters on T1 is a really, really big task. And Doran, thanks to the attention that's been paid by the rest of his team, has actually been looking good. And I think a lot of this does go again back to the fact that we haven't really seen Peanut still in this series.
Yeah.
And he's normally the guy that gets stuff going. And it'd be fine if Zeus is sacrificed and Viper is really put ahead. But this lead is fairly negligible.
I am more interested in Zeka being ahead. The problem with Zeka being ahead is going for a very safe build here with the Rod of Ages. Not going full damage.
Trying to connect here is, okay, they're going to go for the chain CC. Carrion tries to move himself out of the way, but Peanut locks down that kill and just caught napping here a little bit. The Poppy. So Carrion now lying down might be a big in here for HLE to try and get this snowball rolling.
Yeah, they might just look to try to somehow get this full turret as they look for owner.
Yeah, another hook does come through. There's the audacious charges. Faker is off to the side to make this an actual 2 versus 2. But Zeka comes over to make it 3. Gumi usually a little bit later. The Arcane Storm, not quite enough as the Chains of Corruption comes in and Peanut taxis his way out with the Gromp. Knocks it up there as well, but the Realm Warp is coming in. Peanut does have to flash. There's another hook. He's going to come through as Viper has to cleanse as Kerry is back once again. Okay, Keeper's Verdict does get him out of there. Now Faker is the one left alone. Zeus turns up. Enough of that funny business, says HLE. It's Viper that gets the kill.
And
what
this time,
happened?
Yeah, this time T1 is the one trying to heavily overcommit to a play. And they get punished massively.
Yeah, I mean, Peanut initially looks like maybe he has, as we're not done yet.
All right, there's Grand Shuffle underneath the turret here onto a gravity field. As Ona, he can't tank the turret anymore, and Peanut in a good position this time. Huh?
Yeah,
what?
Not really sure.
That was my analysis at the end. I put the analysis.
I'm on this. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Not really sure about that one. I mean, it's only 4 stacks of Rod of Ages for Zeka, but it's not about the build. I think just about the fact that there wasn't great follow-up there, and you're going.
If he doesn't do the damage, don't worry, the turret will.
I do think that this right here, this is just how it works with T1 Escuma. Does he have Nimbus Cloak? I feel like that's why you would barrier there to get out.
I mean, maybe he thought Delight had his ult back up because his ult just came up.
Yeah.
So his ulti could have still caught it.
Well, yeah. So you barrier, so you get the movement speed from Nimbus Cloak, and then you walk it off.
He has a Ghost Blade as well.
No, I think with T1, they always go for these plays. And in Game 1, we see it work out. In the series against KT, it does, and it looks amazing. And now here, we're just left scratching our head and go, you could have chilled out a little bit.
There's been a bit of, you could have chilled out a little bit on both sides throughout this series.
Yeah, Peanut's the same.
Yeah.
Because this isn't really the kind of Jhin snowball we were talking about. This isn't really quite the same sort of like, I wonder how they'll use that. Like, oh, the Rod of Ages on Zeka, you know, it's not a lot of damage, but we'll see how it works out. And then T1, I think, just gifted opportunities to Hanwha Life with misjudgment on how much damage they have in these situations. Faker down flash as well now feels pretty bad. And for Hanwha Life, you know, a few minutes ago you were starting to feel like, okay, this is going to be a tough one to play out, but now you're feeling so much more comfortable.
This could be a little bit dangerous though, as Doran looking for an opportunity, but The Zinzao is here. The knock-up comes through. Wind becomes lightning. There's the knock-up from Zeus at the same time as Doran might be able to flash his way out of here, but Zeus is right over the top, looking to try and chase him down. But remember, it's an Ambessa, so he has better running away.
But I want everyone to look at the vision on the top side river right now, where Doran was pushed up past where the turret's husk is, where it's just tons of vision for Hanwha Life, none for T1. A very aggressive call there that nearly backfired. He loses his flash. And, I mean, I guess they could call that a backfire. Now we're looking for a flank for Keria.
Okay, Drake is currently being taken here by Faker. Zeka moving on in. Peanut with that Wind becomes lightning. Keria looking for that flank angle, wants to hit the Keeper's Verdict to make this a man advantage for T1. As he finds it! It is just about perfect as now they just single out Zeka. That is going to be killed on the other side though, as both mid laners are now lying in the dust. The curtains have been called, and T1 has split the flash forward from Delight as now Zeus turns up to be that monster in the front line. But Keria is still being a menace. Zeus is looking to lock him down as Gumayushi over the wall is getting the pot shots in. Viper now singled out by Doran, who still has a lot of damage, and Zeus will be cut down where he stands. HLE once again losing a team fight.
And it's just way better coordination here from T1 in these moments. The Flash Keeper's Verdict from Keria on the flank was absolutely insane. It gives him just enough space. And then you see the flash from Guma over the wall. So starts off with Keria here, over the wall, channels, flashes, gets the double knockaway, and that's the Scion gone here.
Keria.
And then look at the follow-up here when they look to collapse onto Guma. He's able to get over the wall, which is so critical to do the rest of the damage.
And I think Viper, those shots, it's a Pantheon. You're just never going to get him if the E is up, trying to take him down. And then obviously once you get to this point, you're just a Jhin trying to run away. Even without the ult, Doran has no tough time getting on top of this Jhin. And they knew that Keria was there. They were just caught off guard by that ultimate that single-handedly secured them soul point. And I don't think they were out of the game, but they were definitely falling further behind. The 5v5 looked good for Hanwha, and now, all of a sudden, gold lead is negligible, and there is that soul point. And Ocean Soul Ambessa, Ocean Soul Rise, it's a little worrying.
It's just these same T1 best of 5 stories we tell. It's the same objective control that they've been famed for across this roster. Again, with a different top laner now, but the rest of the core is exactly the same. And that's something that takes years to build. You can't just build a roster and put Zeus into your roster as Hanwha Life and then have that same coordination. I think they're very close, and their team fighting's been insane. But in this series, it's just not on T1's level, and it feels like T1's peak coordination comes in these really important pivotal series. And in this first 2 set of games, it has been around Dragon specifically where you're seeing it really shine.
And you're also seeing our POM from yesterday really shine. On your screen right here, Doran, most damage in the game, although cheating a little bit because he's been fighting a Scion the entirety of the time, but still getting so much work done, and I felt like he was the difference maker, right? He was that extra threat as HLE thought that they'd been able to knock a couple down, right? Zeka and Faker were traded, but then you still have so much more damage available on T1's side.
And from this point on, the matchup only gets better. You have the armor penetration on your passive, or in your ultimate rather. You have Black Cleaver and Eclipse, and you're a full level up.
Yeah.
So, yes, Zeus is going to still be tough to get through for some of the other members. Obviously, Guma is a big one. And I do think that once Zeka hits the second, and particularly the third item, there are still plenty of opportunities for Hanwha. They still have a decent setup in gold, but they need to find an answer. This Poppy specifically, I think, is what really brings this T1 comp into we're T1. We can really get away with any situation that we like territory, as long as they don't let multiple members get immediately taken out of the fight.
It's so hard to punish that play from Keria as well, even though they knew he's there. You know, you don't want to give the Dragon up. It's the way that T1 did it, where they started the Dragon early, threatened to secure the Dragon to force Hanwha in while he's on that cross angle. You know, it's not as simple as just he got lucky, he flash ulted, and they didn't know. It just puts Hanwha into so many different uncomfortable positions where they have to make the exact right call, and the exact right call is not easy to make, and you have to make it in such a short period of time. That was a great play from Delight to almost get Guma, you know, but at the end of the day, T1 pulling ahead in this one objective-wise, still down in gold, but it feels less significant as Doran.
Public execution goes in as Viper is just going to get executed. They blow him up, and now the Chains of Corruption to hold Zeus in position. The rest of HLE trying to get here, but 2 are already on the floor, and T1 are just happy that they've showed up for the slaughter. The knockup comes in though, and Doran is going to be taken down, but Delight will also be returned as another one. And there is the keeper's verdict. Carrier not going to opt into it, but they've still won the fight.
Salvage there from Peanut and Zeka to turn this into not a complete disaster, but I still think that T1 are so happy with it. Is it? Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, figured out that Carrier was there. But that's probably still going to be out of comp. Peanut doesn't have smite, or does have smite, but doesn't have flash.
Carrier has smite as well.
There's no shot. Like, there's Ultra Carrier, there's 2 smites. I don't think they can do this. I guess they're respecting the TP from Zeus and the fact that Jhin exists, and they're not going to run the risk. And also Soul Point is already there. Soul's coming up in 40.
Yeah, 40 seconds, and I think they know that if they do go for the Otacon, they need to go for a reset, and they won't be able to get there for the Soul, so they won't go for that instead.
The reason why this happens is because Viper's trying to follow up on Zeus' fully channeled Q to punish the TP, but Doran just instantly ults him and doesn't care, because he's Mbessa. And it was just a big mistake there. I think the idea on the punish is definitely, with a lot of other champions, correct, but sure, they get the shutdown, but it's just a big miss. And like you said, there's a salvage by Peanut here, but it still means T1 have full control. They take the safe call on the Otacon. I don't think they necessarily had to, but why throw this game away? Now you're even in gold. Dragon in 5.
2 item spikes, done for Zeka. And this is the point where I think Hanwha Life, they're going to get this 5v5 win. Carrier again. Can they find him?
It's Carrier's angle as he knocks Peanut away. The heroic charge comes in now. The Pantheon comes through as well, but it's not quite as coordinated as we saw last time. Viper fighting against Doran though. Deadly Flourish comes in. They take down Ona, and now Doran finds himself inside the blender, and he will be taken out. Now the curtains have been called. Carrier slowed down. He is out of range of these shots, and now Zeka is 1v1ing against the Poppy and kind of losing. That was scary. And Carrier is able to walk his way out. Still this time, HLE find a fight.
I mean, Guma hits that arrow, it's a kill, he does miss it, but Hanwha Life will win their first Dragon of the game. And yes, it's the same play from Carrier. They only hit the jungler this time, and the follow-up isn't as clean.
And there's the 5v5 we were looking for Hanwha. They deny the Soul. They also deny, as Delight is on the ward, do take note.
All right.
There's no rest here.
Death Charge going to come through here, but Faker just decides he wants to kill Zeus, and he might be able to do so. Gumayushi in a fair bit of trouble as Zeka distracted by the Poppy once again. Viper now looking for an angle. Deadly Flourish, will it be in range? And he doesn't quite find it, but he doesn't need to. It's a double for Zeka, and HLE running away with it now.
At T1, they try to run the play back, but this time Hanwha says, come on, you can't do that to us 2 times in a row. And now the game firmly in their hands.
So watch Carrier here again, looking for that same play. Gets the flash, but only hits Peanut. If he hits Delight and Zeus there, maybe it's actually a better angle. And then the follow-up here from Ona, where you feel practically immortal, is pretty nice, but it's the turn here from Hanwha, where they actually peel back and deny Doran, giving Viper that space. And then the fight gets split, but Zeka is also pushing Guma out on the top side. And once the Jhin is alive and has free reign, he can pop with shots like this. If Guma hits this arrow, Zeka dies, but it was just such a great call from Hanwha to peel back, take out the Mbessa, and then front to back in.
So this obviously, there's a TP coming in, so they're happy to take this fight. Nicely done by Delight, also get the cancel. What I want to highlight is the positioning of that fight. Last time we saw that play, 2 people got knocked away, but it also was in the wide open space of the river. What happened there was they tried to follow up. There was a free man queue from Zeus there, because what are they going to do? Not try to back up their Mbessa, not try to back up their Pantheon, but as a result, the fight firmly favored, and that is a gold grab I love to see.
Yeah, that was certainly a little bit of a
up and down,
line.
up and down, and up and down.
Indeed, bit of a heart monitor, and you can imagine that this entire stadium full of some pretty high BPM at this point in time. Zeka moving towards his top lane, going to extend that gold lead just a little bit further forward. As HLE looking to try and take some control of this game. After game 1, I was a little bit worried. HLE looking a little out of sorts. Even in moments in this game, same thing could be said, that it might be that there is game forming on our hands. We might need a hand check, but we could do that a little bit later.
Some series?
Yeah, there could be some series.
Yeah.
We did jazz hands there just to let you guys know what we were up to.
Always do it.
Yes, just like this. Yeah, like this one, guys. No game just yet, as you can see, but we'll see what crops up later on in the series.
So, I mean, Baron is the objective that's up right now, but neither of these teams in a position to take it. Even with a 2-item victor, it's not something you could do fast enough. You don't have enough control. So the next fight is likely going to be on this Dragon, unless something happens, right? A proactive play from Peanut, he gets a pick, or they're able to threaten a turn. That could be how Hanwha Life want to play this, but they are, again, denying vision of T1, forcing T1 to be in this area.
Yeah, Carrier.
TP.
Yeah, they're just looking for Zeka, and he is
a deep TP.
He is a long way away from everyone as he flashes towards Owner. The rest of his team is coming up though, and his health bar is pretty high. He's still alive for now. The depth charge comes into public execution, misses onto this Victor, who is just standing in amongst all of his bodyguards, and now Faker is singled out. It's Zeka's turn to close in. Faker's still looking for that damage, but now the fight is ensuing on the other side. Delight might give himself up, but the knockup is there from Zeus. He's trying to stand in the way, and Zeka might get executed here by Doran. He goes golden! Arrow! And Doran is still alive. They take him down as the arrow is going to be there from Gumayushi. As 3 for 3 is the trade. But it is only really the tanky members alive from HLE, and Gumayushi is still terrifying on his signature Varus.
And also domestic Doran is unreal.
This man, who is this guy, Wolf?
I mean, this guy is popping off in the fight, and it looks really messy because you can see the TP here from Doran and the Owner ult means you think you've collapsed on the Zeka. Realm Warp comes through, but Zeka gets over the wall, and there's so much peel, there's so much follow-up here. Carrier's ult completely whiffs, hits nobody here, and now you're in the blender of this Victor doing so much damage freely, but crucially, the re-engage there from Doran where they actually decide, okay, Faker's unsalvageable here, we're not going to be able to save him, we're going to take out Delight here, and then Guma has so much power. If Zeka tries to duel Guma, he can just get sniped because he's so low. Doran goes in on him here. Doran playing super well, and Zeka with the huge outplayer. Q comes in for Zeus, and also the Zonius means he does go down. Without his calls in that fight and how he split Hanwha Life up and how their decision to give up Faker there, I think this fight was a wash and Hanwha Life would have crushed them.
I was not ready for the flanking Varus. That rim really got me.
Yeah, and that kind of worked as well.
And yes,
yeah, weird.
So, a lot of sums are down for Hanwha. I do also want to highlight the restraint of Zeka on his stopwatch. That was actually insane. He waited until the arrows were in the air, but even before, I think a lot of players would stopwatch as soon as that play starts. But he really went for maxing the damage as another fight for the soul here, at least for T1, if they can get back space. But I think this is where Hanwha Life's comp should really shine. When they can get that front to back, Baker looking on the flank.
Let's see that carrier ult. That's the most important part of a lot of these fights.
Oh, the Ocean Rift.
You really don't get to front to back when a Poppy is in the game, especially when it's carrier.
He's got the heal set for a bit of a gap close as well.
Well, Faker is actually just going to try and take down the start in the mid lane. He will be successful, and remember, T1, they don't necessarily need to go for this.
He wants
but they can, as here's the Keeper's verdict. They do get rid of the Psy on the front line. Is now gone. The Gravity Well is doing so much work here as Zeka just walks away and lets that Arcane Storm do the work, but it's Gumayushi, it's Faker, and they have so much damage, and they'll get the soul off the back end.
An insane fight here for T1. I thought they were certainly going to look for the smite for the soul, lock Peanut down, but they get the Scion instead, which is basically team fight winning in itself.
And the damage numbers might belong to Doran and Guma, but again, it's that Poppy!
Yeah, man. Carrier just removes that front line, and then they can't do anything about it. They rely so much on having that big tank.
Because without Scion, there is no one holding Doran back. Doran again finds the ult on Viper, and there is no one to stop him, no one to keep Zeka and Viper safe. And even though, Owner goes down, who cares? Your Pantheon dying at this point in the fight doesn't matter whatsoever. The backline is safe. That's the soul. And that's Baron as well.
Yep, I think the only thing that hit Gumayushi there actually just ate his Edge of Night Shield to give him that little bit of extra value, who was otherwise completely untouched in that fight. 15 to 15 is the kill score, but it is the amount of objectives, it is the amount of control that T1 has in this game, now with Baron and the Soul.
I mean, practically speaking, T1 have lost one fight on objectives throughout this series thus far. It's just been their objective fighting that is so much better than Hanwha's, whether it's defensive or whether it's these tricky plays from Carrier. And now they're looking for a bit of a collapse here. Realm Warp not ready for Faker. I think they're just going to push Hanwha away.
Yeah, and look at the damage dealt numbers. This is absolutely insane. Both Gumayushi and Doran running away with it.
And Carrier is the lowest in the game, by like a large margin as well.
But he has hit some of the best buttons.
Well, I mean, he's got them to soul.
Oh, yeah.
Like both fights were, it's insane.
It's ridiculous. In the mid lane, we've got the top laners trying to face off, but Chains of Corruption comes down towards his bottom lane. Delight probably lucky that that anchor didn't land. And T1, the war of attrition is just being won on their side of the rift. Here's the flanking teleport, though, as Gumayushi could be in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have his shield, and he doesn't have a whole lot of hope, but he does flash. And the train is not even going to get the stun. The wind becomes lightning, misses. Is the knockup going to be there? The rest of T1 are turning up. Guma's still trying to kite this one out. He finally dies. The knockup up is huge there from Delight at the same time as HLE are trying to fight off Doran on the other side of the fight, and things are going completely wrong for HLE on the top side. Delight trying to get out. The flash in front from Carrier is just gorgeous, and Doran can do no wrong here in Busan.
And why Homo Life is firing skill shots into the nothingness of the rift. Doran is 1v2ing.
Yeah, I want to have a chat with Aslan, man. That guy is getting hit by everything there in Narnia.
Oh man, Doran is just having the series, again, just like he did yesterday, that you couldn't have predicted coming into Road to MSI. Not to say that the guy was weak, he was still one of our best top laners, but to see him do it this well and to really be on peak form. Yesterday we thought, okay, maybe it's because he's perfect, or it's because it's against perfect, because perfect is a much weaker top laner than Zeus. But I mean, he just has so much agency in this on an Ambessa that we've seen very little success in the LCK with.
Wait, I want you to look. Guma should have died.
Yeah, this is
so
insane.
much faster. This can't happen.
You missed.
This can't happen.
Double miss.
that. The Q gets fast. But you need that ult. He needs to get knocked up, and then Peanut also doesn't follow through on the W. And because Guma lives so long, if they kill him earlier, I think that they have an opportunity to peel off way faster to shift the damage, get cooldowns out, and then on the other end, as mentioned, this Ambessa with Ocean Soul, it is disgusting. The flash from Carrier to ensure that his top laner doesn't get CC'd. The sustain from the passive from Doran as well as that Soul is...
That was blind as well, kinda.
On the ultimate. I mean, it's a good predict. He knew the trajectory.
Death Dance, baby.
It's a risky call, and he goes for it. A few things miss here, but ultimately I don't think it matters. You know, hitting that flourish would have changed things. Carrier, the bodyguard, and Doran cleans up house.
Nice.
Man, T1 looking better than they have, I feel, all year long in the microcosm of this series.
Carrier with a big smile on his face here, and you can understand exactly why. They're looking at match point here in Busan. After destroying KT yesterday, the onslaught of T1 is looking to continue.
There's coordination that this roster has built over years. And there's also the strategy element of these drafts that we're seeing, the Poppy coming through.
All right, Zeus, his health bar is looking a little bit large, but let's see how long it lasts. As there's another public execution, Doran getting in amongst 5 people underneath the turret. They haven't gone down just yet, but there's the Grand Starfall. Here is T1, and it's a double already for that man in the top lane. Zeka gonna go golden, and just watch as T1 rolls over the top like this wave that is just attacking them in their base. Viper, yeah, I think probably sticking around on this fountain is going to be the right idea, as T1 will move to match point here and make it possibly a pretty short one here in Busan.
And that bot side play, the power of friendship, T1 have done that exact thing so many times. Oh no, someone's out of position, and before you know it, reinforcements come in, the stall comes through, and the team fighting from T1 today, just outmatching Hanwha.
T1 completely on form as well. And even though in these first 2 games, Faker's felt a little quiet, he's doing his job well. And on the rise, your Realm Warp has so much utility. So sure, if you're maybe down on lane, the Victor's doing more damage than you, he's bigger than you, it doesn't necessarily matter. If you can make those rotational plays, if you can play the map better, if you can play the objectives better with this Poppy, and it feels like you couldn't get more T1 than how they may earn their spot at MSI. Their Game 3 draft yesterday, this draft here, they still got picks like the TF Faker's Galio in the pocket. And T1 is just 1 win away from a massive upset here.
God!
And Doran, man, he's playing against the guy who replaced him. And I think right now he's definitely sitting on top.
Yeah, domestic Doran is an absolute thing to behold. And we might have an opportunity to see a new and improved international version if they win just 1 more game here today.
Clearly, Doran's biggest opponent wasn't Zayd, it's still Krugs.
Yeah.
To this day!
Yeah, as far as the top lane tier list is concerned, it's Doran followed closely by Krugs, and then the rest. It is time for us to take a short break. When we get back, the space is going to break that one down, and then we'll have game number 3. See whether Homo Life Esports can put some game on these damn hands.
이번에 공 한번 굴리자. 오케이.
아, 괜찮아요.
안 패도 돼.
빨리 봐도 되는데.
넣었어. 저만 있어. 그만 바를게.
빨리요. 너무.
진진진진진. 좋아. 자, 아래 공, 아래 공. 다 타봐. 해봐.
안돼. 야, 빅토르 맞아.
빅토르.
나탱이야.
부시해. 가운데.
나탱.
바텀. 얘들아, 바텀.
야, 맞아줘, 공.
나도 맞아.
내가 맞아줄게. 나 가인이야.
내가 맞을게. 바텀 가.
너가 맞아라, 그래.
아니 도란.
대박난 말안 되네.
나이스.
어이없.
质疑从不缺席，但喧嚣亦是动力。强者从不止步游移，只会以力量回敬。传奇之名，自当高歌。
T1 are up 2-0 on Hanwha Life Esports, and the wonderful city of Busan has been holding the road to MSI. But and it is the greatest place where you can encounter incredible fun. Hanwha Life Esports have had no fun. They've encountered zero fun here, especially today, as they are down 2-0. 5-game losing streak for Hanwha Life Esports.
They actually did have some fun. Those first 2 games against Gen.G, I think they enjoyed those. And then it all went downhill after.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially, I think I really like to see Doran popping off. I feel like the whole draft plan is about Doran today as well, because I think he picked Gwen first, and then Zeus tried to pick Zace to win the lane, but he was completely okay in the lane. And the second game, we all know that he's gonna blind pick Sion on the blue side, but he just picked Ambessa into it. And I think he had incredible performance in the game 2 as well. So I feel like it's just top gap is just that huge in this series.
I mean, I feel like, you know, it would always feel good to play against, you know, HLE as Doran and beat your old team, beat the player who was signed over you, but to also just completely be gapping Zeus right now, like, it must be a great feeling. They must be on cloud 9, and honestly, T1 have just been playing so well. I think Kerry also, this Poppy pick that came through, the amount of value they got off the ults, and we often see teams, as Poppy's been more sort of enshrined in the meta, playing around the ults quite well to kind of deny it. But the amount of times he was finding these great angles and using like the flash ult combo to minimize like reaction time against it. They kind of knew he was here, but they found this angle around this control ward, and the flash ult just gives no reaction time, immediately removes 2 members, and now Zeka, this Victor, is just completely exposed to this Varus ult and gets shut down.
I mean, you gotta know that T1 they were just behind the game because they were overcommitting a lot in the early game. So Rise was like 0-3 or something, but
0-4.
Yeah, I mean, I think Poppy was the main part of the T1 in the team fight, especially him ulting away the Sion, which is the main front line for HLE. I mean, that was the huge part of the T1.
And I love this because so much of the narrative around Korean esports for the longest time, Korean League of Legends esports for the longest time was sit back, scale, then play perfectly. T1 were constantly making plays where you're kind of wondering, slow down just a little bit, T1. However, they didn't get punished enough where they fell too far behind, and they didn't stop taking their shots. Because even after that, they went after Zeka a little bit too far, and then Hanwha Life punished, and then we were in the back saying, okay, Zeka's scaled, it's over. They could set up for a big fight.
I mean, just look at Sion and Poppy here.
I mean, I feel like I love T1 as a sort of team who'll approach a team fight in a way where everyone's going at different angles. I mean, you see the Realm Orb coming in, you see Doran in the pit, you see the Poppy ult starting to come through. It's so hard to respond to because they're approaching from so many sides, and it really puts HLE in an uncomfortable position. Doran goes straight onto Viper while Zeka is also being attacked, and it means HLE are scrambling to deal with all these threats at the same time.
Yeah, they're unsynced, and on top of that, I feel like that mind game winning play on Sion was just that huge. I mean, I think Zeus was like, I will try to soak the Poppy ulti with my ulti, but Keria just pre-cast the ultimate before he gets hit by Sion ulti, and I think that was the game changer right there. And I feel like the old objective control from T1 this series is just amazing, especially for game 1. We're gonna see it for now. They got the early Drake into the second Drake, and they dropped the third Drake to get the turret. That means they're just controlling the game like all over the place.
Yeah, it feels like the pace of the game really has been in their favor, even when, you know, maybe gold has gone in favor of HLE, and we saw that in this game. We saw maybe the gold going a bit towards with some early plays not being in their favor. It felt like the objectives were still on their side, and the fact they were able to get this Ocean Soul, which was such an issue because you have that Ambessa, they were struggling to cut through already. Once the Ocean Soul was secured, it just felt like they had no damage to cut through that frontliner.
I mean, just look at the graph, you know, they already got the 3 Drakes, so we could see that HLE was so desperate to get the last Drake at the end, so that's why they lost the mid priority, and also they were not in position to have a good fight. So that's why Drake is so damn important, you know?
And I think it's the thing we're seeing from HLE today, and we saw from KT yesterday, is that both teams are looking so much worse because they're feeling pressured by T1. This is the thing, right? These are both good teams. We've seen fantastic performances from them. and it's T1 who are making them uncomfortable, forcing them into these rough decisions where they know they have to contest this objective. They're being pincered by T1 using these like 5-point approaches, and they're panicking and starting to crumble on this stage. And this is just textbook T1. This is why they are the 2-time reigning world champion at the moment, and why they've won so many titles before that.
Well, a lot of the classic picks in the top lane are now starting to leave, which means it's time for something different. Hanwha Life Esports select red side. That's right, they're gonna try to use the red side buff and sneak away some of the wins that we've seen so far throughout the road to MSI. Will that be enough, or will it be the clean sweep that we did almost predicted but picked the wrong team? Let's find out with game number 3.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I think that this is a fantastic idea. Not necessarily because red side is inherently stronger or anything like that. HLE just need a change, and we are jumping right into the draft.
Remember, just 2 days ago, it looked like Hanwha Life was going to blow Gen.G out and be our first seed.
Yeah.
They have now lost
This is exactly where they were.
I mean, they lost, they got reverse swept, 3 games down there, have lost 2 here, so 5 games in a row. They have lost, and now may not go to MSI at all after being defending LCK champions, defending first stand champions. A crazy position to be in mentally right now for these 5 players.
And we are going to see a Zeus counter. That's why we're picking red side. That's why we're banning champions. That is what we're looking towards.
Yeah.
I think that we have seen Doran be miles ahead of Zeus in that series, and in this series. It's happened in series in the past, but let's not forget, in 2024, it didn't really happen. And I think that the fact that Doran, with all the doubts that were surrounding him, showed up the way that he did today is huge. But we did see a turnaround from Canyon, and just 2 days ago again, went from being, I think, by far the weakest point, which right now I would argue is Zeus, missing skill shots. Even going back, I was talking to Atlas, he tried to ult the Poppy ult in that fight where he got knocked away.
I saw that.
And he was just a second too early, so you're not unstoppable. You do get knocked away. As the Ornn also taken off the board, I'm looking at the Rumble that is still open. Not going to give Doran that, which does make sense. A lot of the other top tier blind picks already taken off the board. The Jax is one that you would go towards as a B1. Annie?
Okay, T1.
Well, it certainly, suits the same story we've been telling, is Faker being a setup guy, a facilitator, and, the ability to just drop Tibbers on people and mess up a team fight is very flexible. You can run several different types of drafts with this, so it doesn't really show anything here, and I feel like given the champ pools and the bans on the Taliyah and the Azir, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, the Nidalee is going to be instantly locked in. That could be Peanut, that could be Zeus. We'll have to have a bit of a wait and see to discover where that one is going to be going, as the Lucian, the consideration right now, feels like a pick away alongside a good pick for Viper. Leaves a lot still left up though, especially if Owner wants to get his hands on something, although of course the Nidalee can still be in jungle.
I do like it. I think that T1 is looking towards Nocturne. Owner really prioritizes the Nocturne. Nocturne Annie is a devastating combo.
Oh,
but instead, the Zyra Rakan, a classic obviously here for Guma and Keria.
So easy to follow up on a Tibber stun with both of these champions, whether it's a Feather pullback or the knockup and charm coming from Rakan. So you have insane engage here. It's a very low range composition, but you're playing into right now this Lucian. The Nidalee Spears can be an issue. We knew the Braum was going to come through here. Seemed pretty obvious. And now I wonder if we just see a Renekton ban here from Team.
Hey!
Hey, there they are.
There they go.
Wait, so Zyra Rakan, they're in the game. Wait, you guys have got to get ready. You got to
run over.
Rift.
It says Guma, please play Zaya. Please play Rakan.
Yeah, but they need to be leaving because they need to be in Runeterra.
Well, there's not that much time left.
Exactly. It's sticking down. I guess we'll wait for the next round of bans. It'll be fine.
I think that the Renekton here still works in this draft here for Hanwha Life Esports, but it makes it relatively all in on mid-game power, as the Owner target there on the Nocturne you were talking about is a very strong ban, Chronicler.
Yep. The Renekton probably a consideration here, even though the Nidalee can be going towards the top side because of Zeus, and we have to remember that. Twisted Fate actually going to be what is taken away. Twisted Fate Nidalee has been a tale as old as time in the LCK and around the world.
Yeah, some 2020 Damwon shades, obviously. Also into Zaya. think the champion is just kind of crazy. It's so easy when you get RFC. We saw that literally done by
yesterday.
T1. So they are like, we are not falling for that same trap.
I think that when you consider that Zeka's not a strong Twisted Fate player and they still ban it, I think it just shows that they know this pick so well.
They watched the LPL finals yesterday and they're like, no, we don't. Owner, I'm not even joking. He still has talent. We saw him pull it out recently. I think he is going to be looking towards an aggressive AD jungler. Lee is another consideration. The follow-up that you have with the Lee on the Annie is obviously kind of crazy. And they're going to pick a jungler here, right? Unless they want to keep hidden where the Nidalee's going.
Yeah, that might be the question mark here. And of course, a blind top lane pick is not what we're expecting. We're expecting Zeus to make that final call after Doran has locked something in. There is the Galio picked up. Oh god, Camille is left up and available. That could be something that Zeus could go towards, but Doran is also just coming off a phenomenal game on the Camille. I can imagine they could just lock it in.
Yeah, it's really tough to try to, and if you're in this situation as T1, expecting the Camille, what you want to play. Like the last tank left, the Orange band, the Scion is Fearless band. This is probably your angle here. And you do have, you know, again, relatively low damage. Like your low range with the Xayah, she's going to do a ton later on, but the Annie, depends on your team fight scenario, whether she's going to do a lot of damage or not. The K'Sante could definitely help with that. But it does feel like we know where the end of this story ends. The biggest question now is what's that jungle carry pick for Owner going to be?
There are a couple of options. Jarvan would be interesting. Lucian isn't necessarily the type of champion that you think about. I do think it synergizes well with Annie, because Annie can go for the stun, giving you a guaranteed flag and drag. There's obviously also the Cataclysm, but no.
There it is!
That's what I was hoping for! There is the lead to pair with that Annie and to give the outplay potential. What is Hanwha going to lock in here?
This is Camille. It has to be Camille.
It's Camille or Renekton, right?
That's a horse.
Peanut Hecarim.
I mean, Camille is hard to play into Lee Sin.
This is not a Game 5 Hanwha for Fearless. There's a lot more available. Instead of going for the Camille, he looks towards some of his favorites, the Aatrox, and then ultimately the Gnar. The old counter pick to this K'Sante. Not a lot of setup for the Nidalee in this draft, though. And in terms of lane pile, you're winning out on the top side with this one for sure. Mid lane, get a little bit back and forth. I think Faker should be able to have the edge if he could continue to apply that pressure. But this is the first pick. Nidalee feels like it kind of ended up in an odd spot at the end of this draft.
And it's one of Zeus's most iconic. It's a champion that he played so much and that he really started to make a name for himself during his debut. But it's also the champion that he played not 2 days ago against Gen G. That wasn't enough. Gen G played around that Narbar expertly. He was never really able to generate the leads that he needed to. And the champion has fallen out of favor, I think for good reason. The Peanut Nidalee though, I do think Peanut from Game 1 to Game 2 had a giant glow up, but he's got to be more active in the early game. He's got to control more objective if Hanwha Life want to give us an opportunity to at least get to a game number 4.
And he's up against Owner's Lee Sin, his most iconic champion. This guy's got a skin on this pick, for heaven's sake. This is going to be a very difficult game. Giving T1 blue side is such a crazy thing to do. HLE have made themselves a pretty cohesive draft off the back of it. But is it going to be enough to keep their hopes alive, to keep them in with a chance of getting this ticket to Vancouver, to MSI? I don't know whether it's going to be enough, because that Gnar, it represented the finish line for Gen G and may represent the finish line for T1 as well, as we jump onto the Rift here for game number 3.
미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Hanwha fans trying to be as loud as possible, but the T1 fans are obviously drowning them out still here at the Sujic Indoor Gymnasium.
And what we thought could have been a new era of a new dominant LCK team in Hanwha. You know, sure, they didn't win the World Championship, but won their last domestic title, won LCK Cup, won First Stand. Might be cut short right here. After being one game away from going to MSI, Hanwha Life Esports may just simply not go there, and no road for this squad.
It'll just be Gen G T1 again.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to address it as well. I think that BLG's regular season, not that great. G2's regular season, not that great. they're both already locked in for MSI, guys. I just want to put it out there. I know it's something that we often talk about, and it's just the glow-up. This T1 is just not the same one we saw in the regular season. And in hindsight, it kind of feels obvious. We always put up the possibility, but the fact that it actually happens, and through the back of Doran is not something I necessarily expect.
I mean, I'm very personally, close to thinking T1 might have been able to do it. Remember, I predicted them in regular season at the end. I was very correct. They did not beat Hanwha in that final match. I thought maybe T1 had passed them. Perhaps they needed BO5 domestic crowd, live event Doran to get it done. But T1 are just looking super clean. They have such a good read on the meta right now. And it's great to see more depth here in our LCK. But if you're a Hanwha fan, you're hoping you can stop that momentum.
And it goes both ways, because as much as T1 have leveled up, I'm also not used to seeing Hanwha just straight up miss skill shots. Delight missing lances. There's a lot of fighting here.
Yeah, heals going to be thrown out here on both sides. Both of these AD carries taking the brunt of the damage here. Zeka and Faker fighting it out here in the mid lane. The Galio versus Annie matchup is not one I'm super familiar with, but should be something that should be fine for both of these players.
Viper fairly low here.
Yeah, Gumayusi actually getting so much from the Gleaming Quill. Getting all of that health back. Did drink his potion, of course, but Viper is really, really struggling here in this lane right now.
This Gnar is so important in this draft. I want to talk about it for a second because we had, remember, the consideration of Peanut playing something completely different. It might not have been Hecarim, might have just been a funky hover, but playing the Nidalee top into the Cassante would have given you a lot of lane pressure, but this comp doesn't have that much damage, right? I mean, it's a Galio. If you play the Nidalee top, your team fighting gets a little bit weaker. And so now Peanut is so important in this draft on this Nidalee to be able to hit spears later on for controlling objectives. That range advantage is really only him. And if your Lucian falls super far behind in lane, things could be really disastrous. As Doran aggressive.
Yeah, the hop does come on through as Doran down below 100 health. The hyper proc comes in, but says, oh no! The transformation happens at exactly the wrong time. Still, Peanut is going to be here as Doran underneath the turret, not hit by the spear. And the wave crashes. They don't know where anyone is on the map, and they do not go any further.
And with the shield, I don't know if it would have been enough, but it definitely would have been extremely close. Could have been the opportunity, but as you highlight, he just transformed at just the wrong moment.
Just one more auto.
Just one more, as we do see the call picked up for Zeus. The early lane playing out the way that has, but that has not been a problem for Doran. I feel like a lot of the early laning phases have been Zeus favored, but then he's able to effortlessly bounce back. Part of that is also as we keep going back to Owner. This man does so much lifting for the team, both in the fights as well as in the lane setups and the dive that they continuously fight.
Yeah, great pounce there from Peanut to get himself out of the way, just harassing Carrier and Owner out of the jungle. And trying to set up something here as the 2v2 has ensued on the other side. That is going to continue here. You can see Viper still pretty far behind, as this early laning phase has been all about Gumayusi and Carrier. This is obviously one of their most successful combinations of champions. They've used this to great effect many, many times. We'll see whether it is going to continue like this. So far, so good here for the T1 bottom lane.
We do have Peanut in the area, but remember, he is Nidalee, so with no CC, I don't think he'll be able to offer anything here in defense of this lane. Would have been nice if there was a dive coming for him to be there, but Owner does not carry his clearing.
Well, there's the grand entrance as the door is going to get put up. Viper taking so much damage here as he's still trying to fight back. A dangerous decision, as we can see. As Delight just going to slow down Carrier, and they are just zoning them away from their turret here just in a 2v2.
It's getting straight up gapped in this 2v2, not even remotely close, as I think Viper really was trying to get the passive proc there together with Delight, but they don't get it, and then he was also hit by just a few stray feathers that I think he wasn't expecting, leading to be so low that in a single combo they would just die.
And I mean, if he gets like one more auto off, he probably just flashes for the kill there. I mean, he had such a huge health advantage that Viper just has to walk away. He was already significantly behind in CS, and now is even further so. And now they're just going to send Xayah back to the bottom lane here. And this is going to be Peanut clearing vision on this dragon, but they have no idea beyond the pit where anyone is. And so starting this is certainly not going to happen now for Hanwha.
Yep, the heroic entrance is now online as Zeka does hit that level 6, so he can augment some of these side lanes. They might need to overload if they're going to get something done. as there is the Justice Punch to come in. Faker going to get taunted up as the Spear will connect as well. Tibbers goes down, but here the Cavalry has arrived. Sonic Wave goes wide. Zeka just a slight sidestep there. The listing lazily to the left, once again working out beautifully here on the LCK stage. But T1 still happy to play defense in this moment.
Might be what they need though. I like this continued trading from Owner because with the burst that Annie has, it's hard to get the trade back on her even though her health is low. And this means that Faker still gets to stay in lane even though his health bar is so low, and they get prio on the Dragon, whereas Delight just decides to peace out. Does it the TP, but I think with the slow TP, I don't know if they can contest. Peanut's on the other end of the map, so they're clearly deciding to let this go, and that's another Dragon going to T1.
See, Delight uses this TP to come down here with Viper, but they can't do anything to this Dragon, and like you said, it's just insane how much control over Dragon T1 has had this entire 3 sets of games. Or set of 3 games, I should say.
Oh, Doran, nice sidestep there, as we can see, as the Mega Gnar just uses the R button because you may as well in this matchup. I don't think Doran's going to be dying just yet. It's a decent wall up there as Zeus is continuing to throw skills at the Cassante, but he's got the steel caps. He's looking like he's feeling okay. As Zeka moving down towards the bottom side, and Viper will be parked in mid, at least for now. 700 gold is the lead here for Gumayusi. So much of this has been him on the receiving end of all of the positives from this early game.
And that's no jungle intervention. There were no ganks, there were no dives being threatened. It was just straight up 2v2 domination, and feels like even with the increase in form that we saw of Guma in particular, but even Keria to a certain extent, I think he was a lot more inconsistent during the regular season, even though he's still at the highs. But them just gapping like this, I think, is unexpected.
That's the worst. That is not what they were looking for here, as HLE still with an opportunity to fight for this one, as we've got top laners battling before this all starts. Gumayusi and Ona in position on these grubs, as Keria able to grand exit from this one. Zeus moving back towards his teammates, but he's going to have to crash his way out of this, and it looks like that is what's going to happen. And there is the objective, just going over to T1 for free. Yet another one, tick it off.
The timing on this, where they are able to get the second grub without using Smite and then just be able to secure the third one for free. Faker on that flank angle, they knew he was in the brush. They just could not collapse because he's got flash Tibbers.
Oh, it's so... Yeah, and Ona now going to move over, deny any sort of Raptor steal. T1 have every answer in this early game.
And it's not even like Hanwha Life already getting anything on the rest of the map, because we saw in that whole sequence, Zeka was on bot, then roamed mid because he wanted to be ready for a possible fight, and the call was to not make the fight because they didn't have Mega Gnar. Then he walked into the jungle to try and maybe contest, and ends up not really getting... If you get like a plate or 2 out of that, I think you're going to be feeling a lot better, but the cross map just isn't there.
Yeah, look at this defensive play here from HLE. They know Gumayusi is just so much stronger. He's got a lot more weapons in his inventory. You can see there's one small hammer and a dagger here for Viper.
Delight's level 4. He just now ticked over, but he's basically a full level behind. Same for Viper.
Keria about to hit that quickness as well. Just needs, there it is.
I mean, they're just going to zone him off another wave. Like, otherwise, I mean, good luck defending this dive.
Well, there is that quickness that goes in, gets the charm onto Delight, who's kicked away. But here's the heroic entrance. Gumayusi with the Feather Storm, though, and he holds Zeka in place. The Winds of War come down, and the Sonic Wave is going to miss. That would have been a dead Zeka there, a dead Gargoyle underneath the turret, and it might still be, as Keria not quite with the amount of damage, but the feathers get recalled, and here comes Faker. He finds the angle. There's another Pyro Blast. It could be a triple for the Annie as Tibbers looks to clean up, and it's in fact the Blind Monk that gets it in the end. 4 for nothing here for T1 in this early game, and Zeus is also taking damage from Doran.
That's got to be a backbreaker. Like, there is just no way.
There's no way. Because right before this, I was going to say, I mean, at least you got a gold lead for the counter matchup. You gave Zeus. At least you got this Gnar. And if Peanut can stabilize in this game, you can have some poke. You can play around objectives. But, I mean, this is just a bottom 2v2 setup where, again, Guma pushes it in and they have so much agency. Zeus looking for something back here in the bottom lane.
He has to.
Yeah, let's see if they can find it.
TP, though.
Teleport is going to come in. Doran goes all out and doesn't get CC'd from the Gnar. Zeus looking to try and get himself out of here, as there is the wallop. It's Keria that comes in, and there's the Q charged up. Doran wanting a little bit more. The flash does come through as Zeus gets the transformation. The turret's getting aggressive. Zeus still trying to get out of here, but it does not work. And Doran picks up the kill. Once again, T1 are schooling Hanwha Life Esports all over the map.
And it feels like at this point the sweep is imminent. We were hopeful that maybe something could happen, as we're going to see a replay of that topside play. It's just a disaster across the board. It looks like initially maybe there's a chance to turn it around with Zeka, with Zeka coming in. That's the first Feather recall. Viper's ult goes into Narnia, just like some of the spears you're about to be seeing. And even though the members of Hanwha are here, they're already so far behind. And here comes Tiani, finds the two-man stun. That spear from Peter, even if it hits Faker, it doesn't matter, but it just adds insult to injury.
And it's just, it's the pressure, you know, that's there in the top side that allows all of this to happen, because if you know, the Galio doesn't come up, they lose that, right? But when the Galio comes up, it means Faker can come up for free. There's no CC on this Nidalee, there's just no saving it, and Doran has backup because once again, unsealed Spellbook Rakan is going to be how Keria helps Doran hard force this kill on Zeus. And at this point, it almost feels personal as Doran is making this road to MSI all about him.
Well, T1 are going to continue making it about them as they look for this engage onto Peanut. He tries to get himself out of there, but Delight is in such an awkward position. Zeus is coming on over. The door has been set up as Viper in a decent spot. The culling this time is going to actually hit some T1 players, but the block from Faker is so good. And Zeus will just get wiped out. Oh man, is this T1? Is this the Harlem Globetrotters? They are just dominating.
This is disgusting! I mean, it's the most one-sided game we've seen in a while, probably arguably across the whole tournament. We had some crazy KET 3-0s, but this is something else entirely. Doran gets the whole turret, the first turret, and feeds the string. And I don't know if this could be any more one-sided. And I want to see the Hanwha fans. How are they feeling right now?
Oh, I don't want to. Let's not do that.
I'd rather not know. I think it's okay. It's a 6K gold deficit, and again here, it's T1, the power friendship. Someone goes in, we all commit, and obviously so far behind is Hanwha already in items, but I thought with that two-man knock-up, maybe that could be something. Maybe they can follow up, but they just don't have the stats. Ona gets Peanut in, which means that Peanut just goes down after that kick, and then Zeus desperately tries to take down Keria. Look at his weaving. The shield keeps him alive. Owner obviously doesn't care about the turret. And that's the only appropriate response!
Yeah, Keria just having a little bit of a giggle at this one. I think he kind of knows that that ticket is already theirs. Looking for another bit of an engagement here, as soon as we're out of replays, we seem to be into another thing.
T1's success is also Hanwha's tragedy. Again, so close, but coming into today, massive favorites. Massive, massive favorites. I mean, there were so many 3-0s on our side. Very few T1 believers, and they were 3-2 believers at that, hoping that it's going to go to the 5th and final game. And it must be insane whiplash to come into today feeling like, well, it was tough against Genji, but surely today we'll get it done. And T1 are just a different beast than they were in regular season, a different beast than they were even yesterday. And this is the kind of glow up you want to see from a team that's going to represent the LCK at MSI.
It's just hard to imagine a way back for Hanwha in this game, right? Like, not even talking about the mental, not talking about the fact that they are on the verge of losing their 6th game in a row, basically getting just fully swept.
Oh dear, that door went the wrong direction there as Delight does absorb a few of these auto attacks. Stand Beside is going to get Delight out of there, but still...
You're a short-range comp. Like, how are you ever going to retake any controller? You need to get down and dirty to get anything done, and the items just aren't there.
And who sets up the Galio ults? You know, how do you find your way in? It's
like that.
Yeah, here's the flash forward. That's what Delight is looking for as they do get the Feather Storm out from Gumayushi. That's exactly what HLE want. Now there's a clock. Now they need to figure out how to get on top of Guma and make something happen. But I mean, I feel like they are so far behind, and yeah, there's Cleanse, there's Flash. Thanks for showing me there, Chronicler. There is still answers here, and he's got a 2,000 gold lead. The wallet advantage also going to be helpful.
All you got to do is just ult that there and you're fine. As even this is desperation.
Yeah, I mean, this is Zeka being able to push Faker away. He's, of course, got the Molten Shield and now has a bear. Going to make this one a little bit unfair towards the bottom side of the map as the Winds of War come down. But I don't know whether Zeka can even win this.
Oh
and
my God.
Discovers that as well as he flashes
It's too much!
Where's the mercy rule?
Yeah, oh God.
And I wanted a good series today. And for me, that meant T1 showing up. I didn't quite mean it like this. I didn't expect to get the bad series because T1 showed up a little too much.
I feel like you opened the door for T1 to show up and Hanwha Life Esports just left.
We may have monkey pawed this one a little bit.
I think that is the important thing to note. Hanwha were the favorites today, but if you had come in and you told guys, T1 clutched it, it was a 3-2, Hanwha got close, but it wasn't enough, it was the T1 magic. I don't think that would have really surprised any of us.
That's why that's why Digon predicted that.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think it was Coco as well, right? Yeah. That makes sense. T1 just out of nowhere, and it is out of nowhere, let's be very real. They lost 2-0 to this team. Not, what, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
It is just insane, and it needs to be the credit, because we always talk about T1. We know that 4 out of these 5 players are reigning world champions, 2-time. There's also the reigning LCK champion, Kruglord Doran, which I feel like we need to give him the credit. He is the defending champion, and it was on this team that he's facing right now.
Yep. And the defending world champion that's on the other side isn't quite getting it done as Carrier goes in. Owner there as well, finds the kick to get the double knock up. As they're now just looking to take down Peanut. They'll take that one very comfortably. Delight next on the menu, Delicious. Here's the knock up comes through. My God, the damage as Zeka will be eviscerated. Nice. And Viper standing alongside Zeus underneath this turret, and Doran says, you are coming with me. The Kruglord sends his regards as Viper will look for a Mega Cone for a disengage.
Am I crazy? Or is it actually perfect gameable? All Grubs, all Herald, all turrets.
God, you are right.
For Hanwha. They could perfect game Hanwha and knock them out of MSI.
Oh, that is absurd. Okay, Zeus is just going to get taken down under this turret unceremoniously. And like you were talking about, the perfect game still on the line. 12-0 is the kill score. They're going to take an inner turret here at 18 minutes. Oh man, now we're just talking about HLE, can they get a kill ever in this game? That's going to be the question, is maybe off the back of this one, but never mind. He's got the smooth moves to taxi alongside the Gromp, the Blade Caller there as well to hold them in place.
Well, they got to defend this dragon if they want to keep that alive as well.
Oh, Guma. Zeka going in. Guma is going forward into 3 people. The feathers are just doing so much damage. As all right. Carrier going to join him. There is the knock-up attempt onto Zeka, who doesn't get the taunt. Onto Gumayushi, he's got the shield, the flash, but the Feather Storm is there in answer, and Zeus cannot do anything as he gets that backline. It's the Pyroblast from Faker that locks him down, and they might be able to get one. Carrier is going to fall. There goes the perfect game, but it doesn't mean anything because they are stamping their ticket to MSI in this play right here.
Speechless is how I'm feeling right now. T1, a Super Saiyan performance, completely unlocked.
And I have been the unfortunate recipient of many a DK Fell For It Again award, but we collectively fell for it again when it comes to T1. Of course they're going to be our MSI representative. Of course they just turn it on when it matters most. They were just sandbagging. We thought it was Hanwha.
Yeah, this was apparently what Hanwha were doing. They've admitted this. They've said they were built for international competition. Well, it's a bit awkward when you don't even get to go there. As this was just Gumayushi playing with his food. As Zeus went in to try and take him down, and he just said no. And Carrier does go down, but he's Rakan. He's set up the play for the rest of his teammates. Oh, goodness me. T1 just have every answer today.
I mean, they could do no wrong here. This is one of the most one-sided games I've ever seen in a best of 5 in professional play here in Korea. It's just nearly a perfect game. As mentioned, just that one kill stops the perfect here for T1, but how can you even say composed on the stage here as Hanwha, considering all the circumstances around this almost qualification for them? Is bye-bye.
Is just going to run towards Faker. The all-out from Doran just says, nope, no Mega Cone for you, sir. As in goes Carrier, finds them all in that back line. As the Galio comes down, but he just gets booted out of the rift entirely. Zeus now just trying his very best to hop his way out. Don't mind me, everyone.
The minion
as
died!
the Sonic Wave goes wide. But I still think he's just being escorted to the death chamber, ladies and gentlemen. Doran tanking up this turret momentarily. The grand entrance holds him in place. And now the base is going to get broken. Gumayushi going to test his mettle against the Otacon. And yeah, T1 are able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, until they decide that it's time to pick up that ticket.
He doesn't win this.
I don't think he does.
I mean, I'm pretty invested in this one right now. As he might be out, I don't know what he can cleanse. Yeah, he's look at the plays, look at the moves, Gumayushi! What was that? That was soloing an Otacon, everyone. That's what that was. It was, he did manage to get that one done. Didn't necessarily need to, but he did.
Everyone's had a role to play in this series, and I think Faker, who was the most quiet of the five, has 0 deaths in this game and has been such a strong facilitator.
I've seen Guma steal objectives before, but I feel like this is a new level. Okay, this is too much.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't sure he was going to get it. I was on the side.
Oh no, I was worried.
I mean, that was the only we're not really sure whether they'll get it moment that we've had so far in this game.
Oh yeah, that was the first moment of uncertainty.
Yeah, as we get the replay, of course. We need some preview here. As you saw that Ona was coming on over trying to grab it, and he said, "Yeah, I won," and he did.
And if he didn't, would it really matter?
No, not really. But it's getting some revenge for his teammates. As Doran, remember, he lost that same battle on the bottom side of the map against a different camp, but still.
A clearly stronger one.
It's some revenge. As Delight, oh god, the Braum just taking so much damage here as Doran throws Zeka into the wall. He's not quite as tanky as he really wants to be right now. Still cannot tank 4 members of HLE, but it does not matter. He's just zoning.
We thought
Minotaur goes down.
We thought the era of Gen.G T1 might have been over. We finally had a new champion. We finally had a new challenger in summer, but T1 still won the world championship and weren't able to make it to first stand. But they're putting their stamp on the MSI ticket, saying we are still able to hang with the best. We are still up there with Gen.G. We are a top 2 team in the LCK, and they're going to earn it here.
Yeah, that was actually very cute by Ona. Peanut wanted to hop over there, and he was like, "Let me help you," as he kicks him back towards his base. And all right, HLE are at least on the map for the moment.
Are they?
They are absolutely reeling. In goes Zeka, looking to try and get one against Faker here as Carrier says absolutely not. He finds a whole lot of charms here in this mid lane. The heroic entrance is going to get a knock up onto the Rakan. Yeah, they'll be able to kill him again, but do they have any chance in the rest of this fight? And the answer is maybe they can get Faker, but otherwise it is all T1 as Gumayushi will be able to take down his former teammate. Peanut trying to get himself out of here as Ona going to join him as they blast going their way out. Another Sonic Wave is going to go wide as the Blade Caller coming on through. Peanut trying to do what he can, but Ona just needs one more auto, one more something as the cat will survive.
He gets out, but I don't know if he feels happy right now about it, Atlas. And
yeah, we can do the yakety sax, I think, a little bit here.
I'm pretty confident he doesn't. I'm willing to take that bet. Zeka, they know, right? Like they probably knew after the top side play. The emotes are flying, but Hanwha Life.
Yeah, the sad bee.
Oh no, not the sad bee.
As the teleport is going to look to put the end to this funny business. As Delight came in, so that's going to try and help out here as he does have a taunt. He manages to buff the Justice Punch quite nicely here, but he's still on a sliver of health. As Zeus decent Nabba position right now, but there is the insect from Ona. He's going to be able to take down Vipers. Now Peanut once again finding himself in a precarious spot, but not as precarious as what Zeus is dealing with right here. It's a cute little Gnar, and he might be able to keep himself alive for a little bit longer, but T1 are still just messing with them. As finally the Sonic Wave is going to connect, and Ona collects another kill. Delight puts up the door. He's got a flash, but he doesn't have a chance to use it. And now T1, with so many members of HLE out of this game right now, they're going to look to take down an inhibitor and get this first Nexus turret taken down as well.
26-3! 8 turrets to 0, no objectives for Hanwha in this final game.
And I had a line prepared about denying golden roads and things like that. I just don't think it's relevant. T1 were just so damn good today. It didn't even look like Hanwha Life Esports turned up. They'll take down the Nexus and T1 will stamp a deserved spot at MSI.
On one side of the arena, elation for T1 returning to form. A T1 that struggled through LCK Cup was defeated by this very same team early on in our playoffs. A team that had swapping bottom laners and underperforming top laner, but they did not give up. Their resolve was insanely strong in this road to MSI, and they will once again be our representatives. Faker grabs the ticket amongst roaring fans. And they're our second seed here for the LCK.
And once again, it is Gen.G and T1 heading to MSI. we might be able to get that rematch once more. It's the only one that we were denied here in Busan.
Oh.
We might have been saving that for Canada.
And for Hanwha Life, it is a harrowing end to what still was, I think, a great season. Clear second in their region for most of this year. Looked like they were the only one, together with Gen G, that were going to be the clear favorites. Obviously, one LCK Cup, one first stand, rather effortlessly, but here today, it was a collapse. And it feels like ever since Gen G got that reverse sweep, Hanwha Life just wasn't able to come back. And what is most poignant to me is Owner having a stellar performance. That isn't a surprise.
No.
Keria and Guma gapping, the way they did was insane, but you can see that if you're told in advance. But come on, man, Doran.
I mean, we've seen it before. This is not a surprise.
But it's been a year.
This is domestic roadshow Doran.
I mean,
and he is the worst enemy of Zeus and always has
been. And of himself. Please, Doran, just keep this level up.
We literally mentioned this during the top lane walkouts that sometimes Doran gets the better of him, but I still didn't think it was going to happen today. I thought it was time to maybe we were going to see a change of the guard there in terms of these big roadshow BO5s, but Doran, man, you never know what he's going to do, and right now he is going up and up and up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got for us at MSI.
Yep, and I'm not necessarily looking forward to these highlights because honestly, T1 just made HLE look silly in this series, but especially here in this game.
Was just an everything gap.
It
right?
was.
Like I don't feel like any matchup was particularly close. There was a little bit of action in the mid lane, but that matchup was mostly just neutralizing. But the way that Viper and Delight got absolutely demolished by Guma and Keria on the Xayah Rakan, just a sight to behold here today.
And, you know, some of the issues we always talked about with Hanwha where they played to the strength of their opponents and sometimes fooled around, this wasn't that kind of series where it felt like those issues got exposed. They were just the weaker team today. They were not playing at their best. And it wasn't because Zeus was over sitting in side lanes. They weren't messing around in teamfights. Zeus never had any control, really, outside of game one on some objective fights. They just got completely demolished.
And it's Delight missing skill shots. It's Peanut not having an early impact. This is very clearly just the Hanwha Life that was rattled, and my God, the T1 made good use of it.
They really did.
This third game was, that one is going to be very fun for any T1 fan, any Hanwha fan. Gotta go outside, we gotta take a break, try and forget this one as soon as possible.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things for Hanwha Life Esports as well is the fact that they're known as the team that can clutch it out. That's why I think so many of us had so much confidence in this squad, is because none of those, oh, but they have the momentum now, oh, they have this, they have that. They're a known quantity. HLE, they get it done, and we know that when they're asked that they have to win, they can.
And
they just couldn't today.
It just got to be so shocking for the Hanwha fans, you know? That's why I was asking earlier for a crowd shot, because I felt like this was not an outcome that was possible today.
Yeah.
Not one you could ever even worry about is getting 3-0 stomped by T1.
And I'm sure Keria's giggles will keep resonating in the nightmares of Hanwha fans, because if that man is giggling, life is not good.
As there it is, some relief, I guess, on T1, but mainly just happy to be going to MSI after that one. Gumayushi doing massive amounts of damage, and these damage graphs really are looking like the shadows of the former HLE, just kind of crumbled down against the T1 that headed towards the Rift here today.
It really, and I think that is for Hanwha Life perhaps the thing that stings most. We've been crediting this team as, come on guys, we knew it was gonna be him. Look at that face. Okay, I'm putting it in right now. Doran, please, Doran, just keep playing like this. Please, Doran, I want you to do this at internationals. This player domestically has made me go through more emotional roller coasters than perhaps anyone else, and all I want, please show this at MSI, please.
The
Doran,
Krug Lord
please.
himself, he has been forged in the fires of the Krug pit.
I feel like
and he will now
I've been a
demolish
Doran
the rest
defender.
of the world.
I can't go for another Aatrox splash.
I feel like you might have a fell forward again award on your shoulder soon, but I'm hoping you don't. I'm hoping you don't. I want to see domestic Doran at internationals as well.
Yeah, we'll have to try and we'll keep a whole bunch of his favorite stuff from here in Korea so he can take it with him to Vancouver and then try and replicate some of that environment. It is now time to head over to T1 for the interview, so here is Tia for the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the post-match interview translation. Joined by T1, who just secured the second seed with a 3-0 victory on the final round of Road to MSI. Please welcome Doran, owner, Faker, Gumayushi, Keria, and Coach Goma. Doran, that was a 3-0 clean victory. How do you feel? You know, in the final round today, I was actually quite nervous. And I was actually trembling in game 1, but after that game 1 warm-up and getting that POM, I'm just feeling so great. After that round 4 unanimous POM, you got a POM yet again in peak form. So which play do you think got you the POM today? I think the impact from Ambessa in game 2 was so strong that I think that's what I got the POM from. But I really did have all my teammates set me up for that victory. So honestly, you seemed to grow even stronger in Busan. So how did you overcome the pressure to maintain the winner's mentality? You know, my mindset was that to not get stressed over trivial things. I really just wanted to enjoy the game. Did you have fun playing? Honestly, yeah. It was quite entertaining. Now you will head over to Canada, and your journey towards the MSI title will begin. So what mindset will you have? Personally, I've always wanted to attend the MSI. I've been meaning to go all this time, and it just feels so rewarding to be able to get my dream come true, and I hope to show you an even stronger performance in MSI. Let's move on to Owner. How does it feel to head over to Vancouver, Canada? You know, I said that I wanted to get a 3-0 victory today in yesterday's interview, and I'm just really glad that I was able to keep my words, and I hope to have a great showing in Canada. In game 1, it was such a bold decision to leave buy open, so what was your strategy? I think there were lots of champions that we considered as an OP pick, so we knew that it would be adequate to actually leave buy open out of all those picks. And in game 3, the last match point, T1's last pick was your Lee Sin. So what made you pick Lee against the enemy comp? Personally, I wasn't really planning on playing Lee Sin, but because as a team it looked like Lee Sin would be a really good fit. I think it was just out of everyone's input. So I think that was really what allowed us to win game 3. So it makes me pretty happy about that. And this will be your 4th MSI. So what mindset do you have? Now, every time we go to MSI, we have always had a bit of a disappointing result. So I hope that we're able to carry this momentum and hopefully lift the trophy with Doran. Next up, let's talk to Faker. T1's record, as well as Faker's amazing career. You just qualified for your 8th MSI. How do you feel? This is only the start. After the victory, I think we just have to really think about how we can prepare for MSI. And we don't really have a lot of titles and championships at MSI, so my mindset is to prepare well, and we have the eyes set on the trophy. Many expected an intense series between Hanwha and T1, but it ended in a complete stomp by T1, so did you expect the 3-0? Honestly, no, I didn't expect the 3-0, but I did expect to win today. And during the regular season, our defeats against Hanwha Life Esports, there were always a little bit of that one step. We always were one step behind, a little bit of lacking. And any word about Hanwha Esports picking red side? You know, red side is always an option when you want to counterpick. So we were actually quite aware that they might actually make that move. And what kind of memories do you want to make in Canada? You know, I've been to Canada many times. I really want to make great memories in Canada. And any fan or any word for the fans who rooted for you with all their heart. Thank you so much. We heard your cheering, all your support. We're just so grateful for your support. And Gumayushi, you have ended the chain of 7 losses against Hanwha. What do you think was key to today's victory? You know, our POM, Doran, he did so well in game 2, and I think we had an overall really good atmosphere and team spirit throughout our practice process, so it's all thanks to our team. And you left such a strong impression with so much confidence yesterday. And you've shown such consistency when the stakes are high, so how are you able to grow stronger on the big stage? You know, because we were able to win to get to this point. And you know, Hanwha Esports, they're coming in with a recent loss, so I think carrying that momentum was pretty big. And on match point, you won a 1v1 against Arakan. So was this just a simply perfect calculated play? You know, yeah, honestly, I thought this was the right play. I thought this was the right move to solo Arakan, but he was actually stronger than I expected. So what are you most excited about for MSI, which will be in Vancouver? You know, this will be our first time going to Vancouver with Doran, so I really hope that we're able to become the champions there. And please send a message to all the bot laners you'll meet at MSI. You know, since a while back, I believe that the best bot duo in the world is Gumayushi Keria, and I want to prove it to everyone. Next up, we have Keria. How does it feel to represent MSI or LCK at MSI 4 years in a row? You know, while playing with T1, I haven't been able to win or lift the trophy at MSI, but I want to make it happen this time around. Your performance today was just so on point, from great peel with Nico and Teamfights to nailing your Poppy ults. Was there any moment you felt particularly proud of? I think a lot of the highlights I was really proud of, but in the end, Jordan was the one who stole my POM, so I was quite surprised. Every time we saw your cam, you were just giggling all the time, so what made you so happy? You know, having a great game of League, and because of all the fans, so many fans here just cheering for us, just enabled me to have a great game today. Perhaps it's because your hometown is Busan. You must have been having a great time today. Would you like to use your Busan dialect to say anything to your fans? Thank you for coming. I'm sure your fans are very delighted to hear that. And please share your goals for MSI. Like I said earlier, personally and as a team, we haven't been able to lift a lot of MSI trophies. And since we were able to go to MSI consecutively, I really want to eliminate BLG this time. And let's have a word with Coach Goma. T1 has just qualified for their 8th MSI. It must be quite special for you too, Coach. How do you feel? You know, with this victory, we're able to qualify for MSI. And yeah, I've been hearing that we haven't had a championship at MSI in a while, so we hope to achieve that this time. And in the end, it looks like you are able to secure another MSI. So any word about that? No, I think I was really focusing on trying to make sure that Doran's not too nervous, but today he was actually just on point. He was so solid, so I was quite impressed. Would you like to say anything to the players? You know, I really wanted them to relax and have a laid-back game. And the coaching staff and the players put in so much effort into really making that happen, and I'm just really happy and I'm so proud of my players for being able to pull this off. And any word to your fans, whether we'd be happy or sad, I know that our fans are always cheering for us unconditionally, and I hope that we can repay your support with a good result. Thank you so much. Please give it up for T1. We will look forward to your success in MSI. And that concludes the interview with the T1 crew. Tossing it back to the analyst desk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Ayaya. Great to have you. Great to hear from T1 as it is a 3-0. That is the next stop for T1 over to Vancouver in Canada and trying to get themselves on the board for MSI. But what a series here. A dominant game number 3. One of the biggest lopsided victories this year.
What a statement. I feel more than anything, because I feel like in any way beating HLE would have really made the case. Obviously, T1 deserved to be MSI, but the manner in which they did it just made the claim that they are a threat. And I think Gen G, seeing how this series went down, especially when Gen G were very close to being 3-0'd by HLE, I think we'll be really, not underestimating T1 at that tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Guma already mentioned in the interview as well, I think it's all about the momentum, HLE was in a great form in the day one, but even though they had the great performance, they were in a losing momentum, and I think T1 had the great momentum from the bottom, so that's why I feel like this is unpredictable. And T1 is one of the magic team. I mean, you already picked the T1 for the predictions as well. I mean, I guess they have so many magic tricks. Or over it again.
I feel like that's the thing, is that when you think about their 2 back-to-back world wins, a lot of people, they talk about League like it's a fixed thing, and it's about, this play is this level, this play is this level, and it's about this draft is this does this, and it's like, this team is this good, this team is this good, and I just feel like T1, it's that clutch factor, it's the X factor, it's the ability to, on the day, just bring a level above what we've seen before, and to consistently just push it further than other teams can, and we saw that today.
I really like the strategy that they prepared for this series as well. I think yes, there is the main meta that you have to follow, but there is something like that you cannot actually just see it, because you can clearly see that there is a stadium meta. You have to adapt what is good on whenever the champion pops up. So I feel like they prepared so much more on the top side, especially. I really like the Ambessa pick into Sion, for example. It was really clear that Sion is just OP, but I just really like the preparation from their top side.
And I really like, we talked about in the KT series, removing stuff from Fearless, like the trade of the Sion and the Orn and getting those out of the way, as well, leaving the Vi up.
Yep.
And be like, we have a strategy for this, and also once it's gone for the whole series, we don't have to ban it. And I think they've really, with Fearless coming in, thought carefully about how can we leverage this to our advantage.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one, and that just shows the experience of T1, that shows the experience of Koma, the experience of Mata and Tom, coaches there that help with the draft. That, to me, was such a clear strategic play that paid off huge. And then maybe after that, your confidence is a little rattled if you're on Life Esports, because you're like, they gave us the free win champ, the easy to play champ. We weren't able to do it. What can we do? And they never got themselves in the series. As we take a look at the POM one more time, the POM votes here. Doran just dominating here. 11 out of 14. We had a couple there for Kerry, who had himself a great series on the Nico, on the Poppy, as we get to the comments here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Doran 100% deserved. I think his entire weekend was phenomenal, but I think Carrier, all 3 games had a lot of impact. I think the Nico had a ton of impact, but I think the Poppy and the Rakan as well. And we've seen like Spellbook just, with the TP, with the impact you can have with that, but also like the Smite being able to steal away objectives. And I just think that Carrier's always been this really creative support, and Spellbook just unlocks him so much. The amount of extra plays he can now make, it just allows him to really elevate above other supports, and that is when he is at his best, when he has more tools in his toolbox.
And Riot tried to nerf all the champions on the support because Carrier is just like trying the other champions, Now you cannot really play like AD, a ranged champion on support, so that's why he's just using summoner spells. Maybe now you have to nerf the summoner spells, but yeah, I know Carrier played well, but in fact that the Doran outclassed Zeus means so much more for me.
I mean, that's the crux that has tied these two teams together over the last 6-7 months. It's that specific swap of players, that swap of stories, the breakup of the team for T1, and they have found a way to bounce on back. And there's Chronicler saying, my plot armor cannot be beaten by champions, only by Krugs. And you can see they know that. That's why Gumayushi was 1v1ing the Otacon in preparation to take on the Krugs later on.
You can tell, Doran's locked into PvP, right? Not so much like
AI.
The environment's a little difficult, exactly.
We all know that AI is just too strong now.
Yeah. And again, Doran against Otacon, he was pretty good at that, so maybe didn't need help there, but
yeah, there's Wolf. Domestic Doran never lets you down, and that is now the next step for Doran, bringing it to international play, but he's been dominant so far here.
That's the thing. I feel like the confidence he showed on this stage, because he's had good domestic performances before, but I'm really hoping this level, this confidence, we see that in Vancouver, and he's going to be the pilot, apparently, so...
We all know how T1 is going to perform good in international tournaments, so it's going to be good.
There's Helios. Don't dare to estimate who I am. So only underestimate, overestimate, but don't regular estimate. Cloud Templar saying, all top laners beware. Doran's heading to Vancouver, hopefully in this form.
But what can you do against Doran? Like, I actually don't know.
I mean, also, it's a pretty stacked lineup of top laners going. We have Flandre and Din coming from LPL, so... And Keen, obviously, already from the LCK. Some big names, and I think Doran in good form to challenge them.
Yeah, my goodness. All right, let's see what else we got here. Today's PUM is today's dumb. Doran Doran of the match. That's what that stands for. Doran of the match. You can.
I'm glad you explained that one for me. Thank you, D.
No worries, Ox. English. Let's go ahead.
Oh, so you could also be D-Gun of the match.
I could. You could be D-Gun of the match as well. I like that. That would be, the acronym would work with me too.
Yeah, it would, but it.
Let's go to the next segment. I think it's today's result here. The clean 3-0 for T1. Nothing to see here, as except the fans maybe didn't get their money's worth, but they definitely got their cheers worth. And that's right. There's only one. This hand going this way.
Wait, I thought it was 3-0.
Yeah, wrong team.
Wrong team, I guess.
But dude, you don't get points for getting the right score, but the wrong team.
Well, I just thought that like Doran is still in HLE, but I guess not. I'm a big fan of Doran,
Actually, if we think about it, right? If this is 3-0 HLE, and this is like when you go all the way over, and this is 3-0 in the other direction, you are furthest away.
I guess.
You are miles away.
I don't know, man. What is happening, I really couldn't see this coming, man. Like, it's just unpredictable.
What's the opposite of Wadida, Chad? Wadida not like this? Take a look at that road to MSI. It is Gen G and T1, our #1 and #2 seeds. You can see the rest of the world that will be joining Anyone's Legends BLG. MKOI as the #1 seed here, I don't confuse you, and G2, then either FlyQuest Cloud9 as the North seed, Pain or Furia as the South seed, and then the Flying Oysters are back, and it's Vietnam back on the big stage with GAM Esports making it on through from the LCP. It is a great group of teams that we got here, Wadid.
Oh my god, I'm so hyped to see T1 versus G2 again, by the way. This matchup is happening again in MSI. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy we had HLE, you know, winning LCK Cup with that crazy run, going to First Stand, winning First Stand, and then MSI, it's just Gen G T1 again. It's just like how things just are. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
You know what? It was the magic of the Sajik Indoor Stadium for me. They haven't lost here. The unofficial fortress for T1 in Busan is how we wrap up the road to MSI. Gen G and T1 are your seeds going to Vancouver. On behalf of everyone here in the LCK, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you over at MSI for some great matches.